How does a highly respected creator go from getting over 1 billion views a year to losing it all the following year? It's simple. Do not.
No. Absolutely not at fault there.
Admit.
So for everyone who's mad about that, fine. Be angry about it.
Fault.
We are just blaming you. It's about the zero accountability is what makes us so mad.
There's no zero accountability, dude.
Jason Thor Hall grew a small following while proudly acting as the face of his game studio, Pirate Software. While this developed, his indie game Heartbound did not. For nearly a decade, he has been teasing progress on Animus, a single chapter in his 5-chapter game. Progress further stalled when he became something of an online icon. Through his YouTube shorts, Thor would grow rapidly. His viewership increased by 31,000% in November 2023 alone. Here, he would disseminate advice and establish his lore that would pay into his credibility.
Yeah, my last job was hacking power plants for the federal government. I worked for the United States Department of Energy. No, my dad didn't inspire the WoW guy from South Park. My dad is the WoW guy from South Park. I am a content creator specifically that is a game developer that has worked in this industry for 20 years.
Pirate Software was massive, but not unstoppable. It was in January of 2025 that he, alongside hundreds of content creators, joined in a massive collaborative gaming venture in the MMO World of Warcraft, a game which he not only helped develop, but was also supposedly an expert in. It was his failure here, but more so his failure to admit fault, that unraveled everything.
Straight up, bro, this dude is a complete fraud.
No, that's the issue. This guy's egoistical as
The internet watched live as a life and tech guru struggled with even the simplest of PR decisions. For months, Pirate would only address the compounding criticisms with unsatisfactory and snide retorts. This caused his indie game to lose support, brought a sharp decline in views, and fueled an endless stream of expose videos that had meticulously unearthed his controversial past and discredited every one of his achievements.
I've been called a zoophile, corporate plant, degenerate, narcissist, nepo baby, and many other names, and they attacked all the accomplishments over my life despite physical evidence to prove to the contrary.
To get the fullest understanding, this video aims to capture all of Pirate Software, from its controversial history to present day. In 1987, Jason Thor Hall was born, and 4 years later, a game studio integral to the story of Thor was founded.
If I can't say no good about someone, then I'll say nothing at all.
Silicon and Synapse, composed of 3 University of California graduates, worked to port video games, essentially translating them to work on other systems. This included a game based on Lord of the Rings and other high fantasy themed games. Through their continued success, they developed their own original IPs. Joey Ray Hall, Thor's father, was a new hire and responsible for many things, but mostly the artwork. The studio then renamed itself Chaos Studios. As reported by PC Gamer, this was a decision made because, quote, people would often mistake silicon for silicone, thinking breast implants instead of electronics, unquote. As the studio saw continued success, its senior employees earned promotions. Joey Ray Hall, through his work as an artist, a 3D modeler, and a supervisor, would eventually create and lead the cinematic team. At this point, the company had rebranded as Blizzard. It had become famous for its high fantasy original IPs like Warcraft and Diablo.
Hello, my friend!
Also in the 1990s, they released science fiction RTS StarCraft. All of these games were rich in lore and strategy and were developed with care.
Go, go, go! Let's move!
While Blizzard was earning its status as an iconic game studio, there was trouble brewing for Thor and his family.
Yeah, we had a moment. My dad and my mom split up when I was very young, right? And when they split up, we actually got the chance to, like, which house do you want to live with from, like, the court? And I was like, chose my dad because my mom was very emotionally driven, and it just kind of freaked me out.
Thor, now in high school and wrestling with the emotions of his parents' divorce, used art as an outlet.
In high school, I became the leader of comic book club, so I started comic book club, but it wasn't like we're collecting comics, it was we're making them. And then that's actually when I made the comic that is Heartbound today, because I made it when I was like 16. In high school, I became the leader of comic book club, so I started comic book club, but it wasn't like we're collecting comics. And then that's actually when I made the comic that is Heartbound today.
Eventually, Heartbound would take the form of a video game. For now, what Thor had was the story and the emotion behind it.
Yeah, and it's funny, people in chat are talking about The Tower, which is a chapter in our game Heartbound, and yeah, that's completely what that's about. It's all about, you know, my relationship with my mom growing up and everything like that. That's why I made that section of the game. It was kind of a cathartic thing for me to build that portion of the video game about that. I think for me, when I was young, it was I guguess it felt like the norm, like all people are going to be like this. So that's because you have very little
like
perspective.
This mean?
Lying to you about things, gaslighting, saying things that happened that didn't happen, all kinds of stuff, right? And it's a really bad feeling.
Thor, at around age 17, secured possibly his first job through the help of his father, who among hundreds of employees was one of the elite. One of the first 10 employees at Blizzard before it was Blizzard.
The relationship with Blizzard, I mean, obviously your dad worked there. Did he just, help you get in the door initially?
So he did back in 2004. So there was a bit of nepotism that happened there, which I don't like, right? So I stayed there for about 6 months and I was terrible at the job. I was awful, 100%. And I left because it was like a lot of shame from that. It's like, I only got this job because of you. I'm not very good at it. This sucks, So I left and I went freelance for about 5 years and I made stuff online. I actually built things in Second Life.
Second Life, a multiplayer simulation released in 2003, was meant to capture a more mainstream audience seeking escapism.
Second Life is not a game. It is a multi-user virtual environment. It doesn't have points or scores. It doesn't have winners or losers.
Though Second Life, at its peak, did have over 1 million casual players, a more goal-driven, high-fantasy game would take the throne in terms of cultural impact and active user base. This was none other than World of Warcraft. This MMO, based on the Warcraft games, was a cultural phenomenon. The expansive worlds full of millions of active users birthed stories of great achievement and crippling addiction. So much so that even the television series South Park made an episode dedicated to it titled Make Love, Not Warcraft.
Even the people, when we did this episode in conjunction with the people at Blizzard, the people who actually produced the game, and even they were like, boy, some of these people are losers that play this game all the time. Even the people who work for the company.
Thor's father, Joey Ray Hall, was one of the people Blizzard sent over to make this happen. As such, he was given the honor of becoming the inspiration for He Who Has Not Life, the antagonist of the episode. While Joey Ray Hall had cemented himself as somewhat of a cultural icon, mostly within the company, Thor, as a freelance contractor for players of Second Life, had started his own journey.
As funny as that is, did a whole ton of commissions, actually moved out, went off and lived on my own in Colorado, and learned programming, learned how to do 3D modeling and texturing and releasing things and living on my own off my own creations, everything like that.
On May 7th, 2006, Thor began his journey on Second Life under the character Maldavius Victory. Over the years, this account will be renamed Constable Victory, Clockwork, Sexually Transmitted Bees, Shitposting AI, King of Space, Thor, and Malware. In this space, Thor began relatively small and unknown. It was only 6 months after Thor was exposed to this world that he created his Fur Affinity account. Here, he would commission artwork like his furry avatar inspired by a ferret. Even his profile picture was commissioned, likely using him and a ferret as reference. Not only was Thor a fan of this artwork, but also according to Avastar, a Second Life magazine, and a piece written by Bilbo Winkler, quote, "Funky furry Maldavius Fig Tree owns Darksphere Creations as well as being a talented sculptor," unquote. In this interview, Thor, as Maldavius, states he helps tag griefers and that he himself owns his own hangout spot, a club known as Darksphere Creations, or DCS for short. This was built by him and a few other artisans. At some point, Darksphere Creations became more than a location. It became a company and an online store. As per this article on land sales in Second Life, quote, he bought his own sim. DCS is a content business that was founded September 16, 2006, unquote. Thor, alongside an artist known as Wingless Emoto, would work to sell avatars.
So I had a business at the time, I was working freelance, I was working on things with another person. The way that it worked is I was creating programming, they were creating 3D models, and we were building these things together and then selling them online. And at that point, we were making a lot of money. I was making 10 grand a month. I was making a ton of money, and for a young person, that's a ton. Even now, it's a ton of money, right?
Thor was making a good amount of money on Second Life, but this was not the only thing he was doing. As per this leaked text log, taking place around April 2007, he was also working with others to target specific griefers. Today, these are better known as trolls. As Second Life was in essence many simulated worlds, these griefers could come in and spawn endless entities to crash a world, or just overload it with noise-causing entities. While some griefers could be less harmful in their approach, others could spawn in entities plastered with images of de-skinned bloody wolves, decapitated animals, or images containing texts slurs. All of these were aimed to harass Second Life's furry community. The video on screen comes from the infamous 4chan adjacent griefer group Patriotic Nigras, or PN for short. Thor, likely running into these through his griefer hunts, eventually joined up with a group of like-minded vigilantes who called themselves Justice League Unlimited, or JLU for short. To this, we go back to the leaked chat logs that show Thor joining this group. After a lengthy pledge given by the leader of the group explaining the origin of the group wearing superhero costumes and a dedication to do good and not bad, Maldavius accepts and becomes a member of JLU. There is a rabbit hole involving this group and their involvement with each other and their direct connections to Linden Lab, the creators of Second Life. This video will only cover Thor's involvement. As per the PN Run Wiki, Thor created cubes that, quote, are probably hidden in a few other permanent objects. If they see any objects rest in the sim with common projectiles, resers, etc. names, it would automatically attempt to orbit you. Isn't this technically griefing as well? This is pretty much useless as well, as long as you actually know they do this. See bypass, unquote. This object of Thor's creation looked for keywords and activated when an item titled under a suspicious name like orbiter, weapon, nuke, etc. was spawned in. They were effectively mass surveillance tools, but as PN discovered, they could be bypassed by naming griefer tools or their components object, as object is a standard name for items in Second Life. This was not the only attempt Thor made to counter this infamous group. He infiltrated them as well. Quote, I'm not even a furry if you didn't know. I make money selling furry avies. I make steampunk. See the robot in front? That's my normal avie. The cube on my hand is a cube of havoc, my weapon of choice. Unquote. Thor then claims he crashes his own sims more than PN, implying he is a reputable griefer. However, the other participant is distrustful. Later in the conversation, they ask why Thor would go around in a furry avatar if he is not a furry. Thor responds, quote, because if you show yourself as a member of the group, that group trusts you. Same with JLU, PN, and the rest. I show myself as a quote-unquote member, and they buy my stuff. When I'm a robot, I sell less. Sneaky sneaky. Everyone knows I'm not a furry. Unquote. Thor did indeed grief and or delete other simulations. One was of a client that he had a copyright dispute with, and the other was a simulation known as Woodbury University, a base of operations for PN. Though there exist stories that Thor righteously struck this sim, the owner has stated that the sim was set to be rebuilt anyway, so it was not an act of malice. It was only seen as such because the sim was soon removed by Linden Labs themselves. Even so, PN struck back by spreading word of Thor's infiltration, tracking device, and his docs. This includes his name, address, both home and cell phone number, and email. This could formally be found on the PN wiki. According to it, Thor tried to get this page removed, but did not succeed. Side note, Thor as Maldavius Victory did have a wiki for a page with his real name and birth date. It also lists the games he played and made note that his persona is a ferret. According to the wiki's removal request, someone, likely Thor, kept removing information found on the wiki only for it to be restored, until a request was made for personal exclusion, which Thor allegedly verified it was him by posting the comment, "Delete me," on his Fur Affinity page. This is why his current day wiki for a page states it is left blank by request. As for PN's wiki that was maliciously doxing Thor, it also served as a gossip piece for a Second Life drama, and even makes note of Thor's father and his status at Blizzard. Undoubtedly because Thor would bring this up in conversation. Things only got worse for Thor as his business partner, Wingless Emoto, wanted to renegotiate their contract.
Eventually that person came by and they're like, hey, I want to renegotiate. I want 80%. Now I'm going to give you 20% because I do the art and you just do the programming. They didn't respect that the programming was half the job, right? And I said, no, like we have a deal for 50-50. Like, no, we're not doing that. And they said, okay. And they took all of our work and they open sourced it.
According to the Alphaville Herald, quote, Maldavius Victory, notorious for having destroyed builds in the Woodbury University sim last summer, is in the news again this week after his controversial firing of avatar designer Wingless Emoto. According to reliable sources, Victory held an suspiciously time-staffed meeting last Friday morning. A meeting timed when Wingless Emoto would be asleep and therefore unable to attend. During this meeting, it was determined that the talented avatar creator Emoto was earning too much and should therefore be removed from staff. The terms of service for Victory's company, Darksphere Creations, were conveniently changed. and Miss Emoto was removed from her position, all before she awoke to the news. Unquote.
Tabloids at the time do what tabloids do. We were kind of a big deal in the game at the time for the avatars we were selling, so they made extreme and idiotic statements and took the side of just the artist without reaching out to me.
Thor commented on the story with the alleged chat logs between him and Wingless Emoto. Quote, Wingless says, I made a druid named Peniscock. Maldavia says, cool, I ran the company while you sat on your ass. Wingless says, keep up the good work then. I intend to continue sitting on my ass. I'm far too cheap to buy a new tablet right now. Maldavia says, you're an ass. You really are. You don't give a shit about this anymore, do you? You realize everyone else in this company is telling me to drop your ass right now. Even Grylor. Wingless says, did it really in the first place? Money is nice and all, but mostly I build because I like doing it. Unquote. This article has 55 comments. While some do point to the article's bias, as the image the author selected to represent Thor is of a furry avatar giving oral sex, the majority of comments testify to Thor's infamy. This comment in particular provides more information on him and Wingless Emoto. Quote, Maldavia says, I fired her. She didn't work for 2 months. Missed meetings because she was playing WoW and or too lazy to come, and then freaked out when I said I would be paying her on Fridays instead of point of sale due to tax complications since I had to report all this income for taxes. She's also underage, so I've reported her. I know this because I met her IRL. She lives 2 hours from me. I told her she will be paid on Fridays for the sales when she turns in the weekly report as usual, and she freaked. So if half the content is mine and I agreed to only take half the revenue as I always did, then why would she be pissed? I planned the meeting, told her about it, she played well till 4 AM and slept through it. Not my fault. Unquote. This chat log, among providing evidence that Thor did fire Wingless as she slept, also provided the information that she was a minor and that Thor met up with her in real life. Thor would later state that Wingless was 17 at the time and he was 19. He also claims they never did anything sexual. An account claiming to be Wingless Emoto would later add, quote, nothing inappropriate happened when we hung out. He literally sat on my couch and played EVE Online the whole time. And it wasn't quote-unquote in private, my mom was at home. Unquote. As for the other comments directed at Thor, they read, quote, this is not only hypocrisy from Maldavius, but greed. I am glad to see the rest of the grid waking up to what a cancerous evil there is in Maldavius' fig tree. Much of the drama in his little world centers around his penis. Unquote. These are only a handful of select quotes. On the lengthier side is this testimony. Quote, OMG, this is so funny. He wanted to be my business partner, so I took him on board. He did approx 80 minutes of work against my 30 hours and expected to get half the cash. Then, when I complained about this, as well as being constantly ignored for 2 weeks, he gives me his, do you know how good of a scripter I am? How much I'm worth? I make $8,000 US a month from SL speech. Of course, at this stage, the alarm bells ring and I quickly hit the delete/silence button. Unquote.
I had a very kind of grand vision of myself, way grandiose, way larger than life, frankly, in an absurdist sort of way. I thought I was top of the world. I thought I was kick-ass all the time. And it humbled the shit out of me, frankly. It's the best way to put that.
It was not the falling out with Wingless Emoto that quote-unquote humbled Thor. It was Wingless Emoto making all the avatars she had made for the business now free.
Our income went gone. So they cut off their nose to spite their face. They lost everything as well. But I was in a much more financially precarious position because I was an idiot and spent all of my money. That was on me, right? Their action, awful. But also, I didn't plan for anything like that. So I went homeless. I lived out of my car almost immediately, too. I didn't have money for next month's rent. Like, it was just like, boop, gone. That's a problem, right? And I was on a month-to-month situation like that, which is already highly expensive. So I was out. And I learned throughout that process, it's like, I could blame them, but where's that going to get me? I'm going to get back in this exact same scenario.
Thor goes on to claim that it was his time being homeless that made him self-reflect.
What can I do better so that even if another person acts improperly and tries to abuse that sort of connection or what they have over me, that I will not be back here? And that's where I formed all of these ways that I kind of handle problems and logically walk through problems and handle everything the way that I do, is to prevent that from happening to me again.
It appears that Thor, after his falling out with Wingless Emoto, attempted to run his own store using models of his own design with little success. It took Thor a year to scale his business to the point that he claims he was making $10,000 a month. As his fame gradually increased, so did his sense of status, leading him to make a decision that would not only turn the community against him, but also entirely destroy his career. Though he would feel humbled through his failures, these lessons, decades on, would be ignored and history would repeat itself at a much larger scale. For now, as Thor claimed, after a year living out of his car, he would use his experience in Second Life to apply once more at Blizzard. Thor, on his LinkedIn, reframes his time in Second Life generously, claiming he worked as a quote-unquote freelance security researcher and developer. Either with this or through his father, Thor got a job at Blizzard for a second time. Thor claims this was with his own merit.
And then I came back to Blizzard in 2009 and I applied again and I got the job without him. And that was the whole point for me, was to make sure that I got a job at a place like that. Good thing, it's never a good thing.
At Blizzard, Thor worked under the quality assurance team. These are game testers meant to find quirks or bugs before the product is made public. This is highly important for MMOs like World of Warcraft, as a major bug can lead to rare item duplication or the like. Little would have been known of Thor's character in this time period if it were not for his ex-coworkers speaking to the person Thor was.
Basically, what happened is we share the same last name. That's why I don't mind sharing my last name. When I joined the company, they literally thought that we were related because I have a couple of years on him, so they thought that I was his older sister. And they thought that with me coming in, I could potentially handle him and he would be less of a problem.
This comes from an interview creator Quinthio conducted. Though Cynthia Hall claims to have clarified to Blizzard that she was not related to Thor, she still bared the responsibility of keeping him on track, which was not the easiest task.
Whatever the task was for the day, it could just be spawning different monsters and testing their affixes to see how they perform. That easy. But he would just kind of create a character and idle in the client and read Reddit. That's literally what he did. He sat in front of me and I was assigning the tasks. So not only did I see the work he was not doing, I saw what he was doing instead.
Cynthia claims that even with the knowledge that Thor would slack off, there was little she could do because of who Thor was.
He said, well, you could try to escalate it, but no one's going to do anything because I've tried to report it before. So I talked to my manager and I talked to one of the department heads. Like, I talked to the manager over the project. And I was essentially told that no one is going to do anything. It does not look good on your future at Blizzard if you mess with an executive's son, period. Everybody knows who Jason is. If you write him up, if you fire him for misconduct or otherwise, people are gonna know you did it. They're not gonna know that anything was actually going on. They're just gonna know you were the guy that fired Joey Ray's son. And your career is pretty much toast because everybody in the games industry knows each other too. He was allowed to do whatever he wanted to do because nobody would course correct.
Cynthia, on the website Kiwi Farms, under the username Boing Boing, also wrote of what Thor would get away with. Quote, during a charity event on campus, he participated in a League of Legends tournament. He was profanely screaming at his teammates across the office about how shitty they were for not being able to buy to counter the other team. This was a casual charity event, not some actual rank shit, and these were people he worked with on his team. I'm actually shocked he wasn't written up for this. But only one manager was present and locked in his office at the time. Unquote. Given no recourse, allegedly some of Thor's other coworkers saw it fit to troll him.
But this guy is a master troll. This guy was also one of my best friends. Would print out a photo of Edward Cullen's face and tape it to the bottom of Pirate's mouse so that whenever he would come back to his desk, he would wiggle his mouse to try to wake his PC. And he just couldn't wake his PC. So he'd have to flip his mouse over and be greeted with Edward Cullen's face. And you could just hear him scream across the floor.
Even with Thor's infamy, she found herself to be in a bind that required his help. Quote, Thor became my roommate because his dad kicked him out of the house and I happened to be in need of someone to take over a room that another person fell through on. I already observed some of his shit, but I was in a bit of a bind and figured it would be fine since we were on the same overtime schedule. I really should have known that if Joey Ray didn't want him around, it was best to keep max distance. Unquote. Cynthia provides this message as evidence that she believes Thor may have been initially hitting on her, even though Thor did have a girlfriend who also worked at Blizzard. As per these two messages, it is evident that Thor moved in with Cynthia October 2011. Quote, from the first days after moving in, the kitchen was a literal pigsty. All pans would be constantly used and left dirty, usually with food remnants intact, dishes and utensils everywhere, sink full, filth all over the stove and counters. I also had a new patent leather chair that his quote-unquote totally non-destructive cat started scratching to hell the same day he moved in, and he only ever offered to tape up the chair. He even tried to gaslight me by insisting the chair was always scratched up. Zero pets touched that apartment before he moved in. I asked that he replace the $100 chairs since all surfaces were destroyed, and he insisted taping it was fine. He didn't do either. He was extremely into EVE Online, and would regularly stay up half the night being loud on voice chat with his friends while playing. This apartment didn't have thin walls and there were full closets separating the rooms, but I could hear every single word said until he shut down to get a few hours of sleep before work the next day. His general fuckery led me to further investigate the living situation overall a couple of weeks in. He never put a shower curtain up in his bathroom, so the floor was dirty and spotty from pooling water. The bathroom countertop that took up a whole wall was covered in what I can only assume is ash, bong accoutrement, and other detritus. Random shit was all over the place. His bedroom door was left cracked open, so I looked inside. Again, shit everywhere. Trash, clothes, bags, and dishes everywhere. The fucking walls were smeared with, I don't fucking know, cum or snot or both. If this was only a month of damage, I couldn't afford to keep this guy around. Unquote. Using the damage Thor's cat caused as an excuse, Cynthia nudged Thor to move out. And as per the screenshot, he did on December 26th, meaning Cynthia only lasted around 2 months living with Thor. But even after he moved out, they would still remain co-workers. Quote, after he left the apartment, he continued being a shitter at work. We discovered some vulnerabilities on the Diablo 3 real money auction house to the tune of several millions of dollars from the sales of deep gold and items. I want to stress that Thor had no involvement in the identification or patching of the exploit. This issue had two effects. First, Blizzard donated the money from the dupe to a charity. Second, Thor used this incident to seemingly secure himself an unofficial position as an exploit tester. He was still in QA as an analyst. Unquote. Cynthia goes on to state that Thor's shenanigans became unclear as going forward, he was no longer reporting on a team relating to hers, but does remember that Thor found a client vulnerability which led to a more firm role in exploit testing. Cynthia also emphasizes Thor wildly misrepresenting his time working at Blizzard.
So eventually I wrote this 13-page document. I brought it to Ali Batani. I was like, hey, you should make this team. This is the application security team. It's specifically for security for Blizzard's websites. And he said, thank you for this. I could have gotten fired right there. There's like a whole culture of like, don't break ranks. You know, it's like a really dangerous thing. Like, don't do it. It was very military kind of culture. And 2 weeks later, he contacted me in the middle of a task and he goes, hey, you should really check out this job. And I was like, what are you talking about? I have to do this task right now. I was like, no, you should really check this out. And it was my job, the one that I built the team for.
This is how Thor claims he became the lead of application security. But this was only a stepping stone.
And I was the lead of application security for Blizzard. And then we went to DEF CON. Because of that, the business actually paid for us to go to DEF CON, which is a hacking convention.
Yeah.
And at DEF CON 22, I didn't win. I went there and I competed in a cryptographic challenge and I lost, but we learned so much.
DEF CON 22 took place in 2014. While this is a convention for hackers and other computer-savvy individuals, it is also known for its various challenges, panels, and as Thor stated, cryptographic puzzles. Essentially complex coded puzzles that have participants analyze whatever scan information is available to hopefully find a solution, which also requires participants to avoid the many red herrings. Though Thor did not win anything in DEF CON 22, his team, the Council of 9, did win the Black Badge Challenge for DEF CON the following year.
So there's a part when we were about halfway through the challenge, you put a board outside of your room. We thought it was part of the challenge and it had 2 coordinates on it. We went to one of those coordinates and there was a LAN cable hanging from the ceiling that wasn't connected to anything at one end. That's all I'm going to say about that.
That was footage of him recalling the Black Badge Challenge. The coveted Black Badge grants the winners of the challenge free admission to future conventions. Under his Twitter account, Potato Sack, Thor would celebrate his victory. Quote, the wild derp in his natural habitat. Unquote. It was also this year that Thor claims he joined Blizzard's Red Team. As Blue Team, in terms of security, is the defensive team, Red Team is the one that tests the security by approaching it as a bad actor would.
I'll tell you some of the stuff that I've done as Red Team, too. I've 3 a.m. in the rain, jumping over spiked fences, putting a rug over the spiked fence to get over it. I've done dumpster diving to go find passwords that people have thrown out that they shouldn't throw out in big old galoshes, big old rubber boots. I've broken in through ceilings. I've broken in through electronic doors. I've broken in using...
While some of Thor's claims do not seem entirely realistic, even for the scope of Red Team, there is video evidence of at least one of his feats. In this video, he breaks into a safe. Though Thor claims he got into this position through merit, his ex-coworker provides a different possibility.
They're just going to let him do what he's going to do. And that's exactly what I was told. And that's exactly why Jason was allowed to form his hacks team.
Joey Ray Hall left Blizzard in 2014. One could assume that as Thor's father left, so would the protection Thor had from his presence. Yet even without it, Thor appeared to continue to get favorable roles.
So I actually applied at Blizzard to go do what is called the side projects and side project committee. I was the first one that got approved. And I went and made a tiny arcade game.
Despite Thor never working on developing games, as his job descriptions fall under security and game testing, and out of well over 2,000 Blizzard employees, it was Thor that was the first to be allowed into the Side Projects Committee, a program that allowed him to work on personal projects outside of work without a conflict of interest. On January 31st, 2016, Thor, under the username Pirate Software, tweeted, quote, "We will release official Pirate Software updates here." Unquote. This account and the Pirate Software website were not only made to advertise his upcoming food-themed game, but also his new game studio under the name Pirate Software. Thor claims he chose the name because it was funny in an ironic sense and not because he actually encourages the pirating of software. Then in February 2016, Thor left Blizzard and joined Amazon Game Studios as an automation engineer and also began focusing on his own company. The Pirate Software crew roster, excluding Thor, consisted of 3 people. 2 artists and a composer. This leaves Thor with the sole responsibilities of programming the games. These came down to 2 projects, both of which he worked on through Blizzard's Side Project Committee. On March 4th, in this Reddit AMA under the username Thorwitch, Thor claims he had sunk 1,100 hours into the development of an RPG. Separately, he was also working on an arcade shooter. The latter was announced as Champions of Breakfast the month prior. The former was only hinted at through this tweet. The username Thorwitch was also used for Thor's YouTube channel Thorwitch Plays. Though any videos on it are now unlisted or set to private, the name does imply that there existed videos of Thor as a Let's Player. Back to the topic at hand, the goal was to get Champions of Breakfast on Steam through Steam Greenlight, a feature meant to fast-track the approval of indie games via the Steam community. An issue here was that the game had more users voting no they would not buy the game if it was available on Steam. Even so, on March 11th, the game was able to get enough support to be greenlit, and was released into early access on April 1st, with its full release listed as June 23rd, 2016. Likely to stir up publicity, Thor attempted to entice popular Let's Players and Let's Play groups with custom artwork to play his game. This included Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, Game Grumps, and Super Beer Bros. Even PewDiePie was a target. Though every attempt appears to have failed, even without their promotion, Champions of Breakfast had an overall positive reception. Thor as Maldavius was one of these positive reviewers. On Metacritic, he gave it a 10, the highest possible score. As Thor wrapped up Champions of Breakfast, work began on a new game, but not a new story. Heartbound was something Thor had been conceptualizing all the way back in high school. Quote, "For those of you waiting for Heartbound updates, your time is now. This has been a project of passion for me over the last year, and the main reason I chose to go indie in the first place." Unquote. Thor cites Secret of Mana, Illusions of Gaia, the Mother series, Secret of Evermore, Super Mario RPG as his core inspirations for the game. The biggest is likely Earthbound as it shares part of the name. As for the story, quote, "Lore is the main character of Heartbound, a troubled young teen living in a world rapidly being overtaken by a horrific curse, turning everyone he knows into creatures called Darksiders. These Darksiders retain all of the memories and ambitions of their host, but twisted into a terrible mockery of their former selves. To escape the growing darkness, Lore must travel to another world to fight back from there, slowly learning the truth and meaning behind all this in the process." Unquote. Though Thor does not say as much in this post, main character's parents are both based off Thor's real parents. Baron is Lore's talking dog. Lore, as is the player's motivation throughout, is to recover Baron after he is left in an uncertain state. In the beginning of the game, Baron's highly optimistic attitude helps counter Lore's pessimistic view of the world. In a way, Baron also helps counter the negligence of Lore's father and the abuse of his mother. Though as Lore ventures into different worlds, not of Earth, Lore interacts mostly with characters unfamiliar with him or the existence of Baron. There is a possibility Baron, the dog, is not even real. Perhaps he is the hopeful side of lore as he retreats into his own world to grapple with the nature of the real one. The consequence of failure is to be doomed in an unmoving, depressive nightmare. This is largely symbolized in the tower section of the game based on a corporate office where Lore either finds that he, through the player's choices, has become his gaslighting mother, or that he has defeated her influence by not sharing in her negative traits. Choice and the impact of choice is what Thor aimed to flesh out to an unrealistic degree. Quote, every time you interact with an object, talk to an NPC, forget to turn off a light switch, take out the trash, or disregard a sparkly bush, the game remembers this and will change subtly for all further interactions. The greatest part about this design is that it already works and is in the current builds of the game. Both minor and major differences are going to pop up throughout the game and give the community something to share with one another. Everything you do matters, no matter what kind of player you are or choose to be. Unquote. On the bottom of the post, Thor provides the current plans for release. Quote, right now we are planning on releasing a public beta before the end of the year along with a crowdfunding campaign to help fund the game. Unquote. Alongside working at Amazon Game Studios and working on Heartbound, Thor also attended 2016's DEF CON, where for a second year in a row, Thor's team, the Council of Nine, won that year's Black Badge Challenge. That was also true for the following year's challenge.
I got 3 in a row. So DEF CON 23, 24, and 25. Hat trick is not like a normal thing to get. So the first one, people are like, wow, like I got one. And the second one, they're like, wait a minute. And the third one, while I was at Amazon Game Studio, the DOE, approached me and they're like, hey, do you want to go hack those power plants? And I was like, I love money. So like, yes,
As nice of a story as that is, it's detached from reality and even contradicts Thor's own LinkedIn that shows he started working at Eagle Research Group in 2016. This means it was before DEF CON 25 that took place in 2017, meaning that when he got his job, he only had 2 black badges. Furthermore, Thor did not work for the Department of Energy. He worked for a company that held a contract with the government.
And they just fly us to a site, hack the site, write a report, go home. And I had to wear a suit the whole time, and they made me cut my hair, which was weird.
You hacked in a suit?
Wait,
yeah, suit and tie.
That's very Hollywood, dude.
That is.
Shit was weird,
that
dude.
Is super
It was
Hollywood.
weird.
I kind of like that
it.
though, that they made you wear a suit.
That's
They made me wear a suit, and they lied to me too. They told me I had to cut my hair, and I was like, why do I have to cut my hair? And my boss lied to me. And he goes, oh, because you'll be around turbines.
Also in 2016 is evidence of his haircut, which aligns with the evidence on LinkedIn that reinforces that he did start working at Eagle Research Group in 2016. The additions of the lie about the government approaching Thor and the lie that it took place at DEF CON 25 in 2017 are perceptibly only included to aggrandize himself, something that would become all the more common. Though Eagle Research Group undoubtedly did take much of his time, Thor was keeping to deadlines. Just as he stated, he did release a beta version, but more so a demo of Heartbound that could be downloaded on his website in late 2016. This game was greenlit even faster than Champions of Breakfast and was set to release into early access late 2017. Then on February 24, 2017, Heartbound hit its Kickstarter with a phenomenally low goal of only $5,000. This was hit in a little over 24 hours after posting. Then in March, after the funding period ended, Thor directed his patrons to his development streams, and selected PayPal as a way of post-Kickstarter funding. There is even this interview conducted by the channel Video Game News Source.
So speaking of games, what do you have for us today?
So we have Champions of Breakfast, which is a twin-stick shooter that we made in 24 days from concept to release on Steam. Blew up. It was really, really awesome. And that game is pretty difficult. So if you're into really hard arcade games, that's the kind of thing for you. And the other one is Heartbound, which is a more story-driven RPG.
Thor was specifically working on 2 chapters of Heartbound. Chapter 2, The Tower, which has a distinct red, black, and white color palette, and Chapter 3, Animus. This chapter is set mostly in an autumn forest home to various furries. Planned were 2 additional chapters, making it a 5-chapter game. This was set to release December 2017, not into early access, but fully finished. These chapters were entirely absent from the Heartbound demo, as only Chapter 1, which sets up the main character lore, his parents, and his dog, was accessible. By mid-2017, progress still remained steady, Thor claiming he was building a new environment in Heartbound every 6 to 8 hours. Quote, this one was created from scratch and implemented in a single day of work. Unquote. Initially appearing as a strategy to include his fans on his game's development, Thor announced a streaming schedule. He would stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 2 hours at a time. Somehow, he had the ability to fit these streams into a schedule full of dev work and his obligations at Eagle Research Group. By late 2017, this was all getting to be too much.
So they wanted to increase my hours from 10 weeks of work a year flying around the country to 30 with the same pay. And I was like, dude, I'm not, like, that's more than half the year I wouldn't be at home. Like, what's the point of even, I just live out of hotels at that point, right? So I quit and I was like, I'm going to take 2 weeks. Maybe I'll go back to Amazon because they were offering me a position for a lead security position to do security for their games. And it was still open. They did that when I was leaving and it was still open there. And I was like, I'm going to figure out what I want to do. And 2 days later, Jacksepticeye played our game Heartbound. And the community just blew up. And I was like, well...
Top of the morning to you, ladies. My name is Jacksepticeye, and welcome to a game called Heartbound, which I think is supposed to be a mix kind of Undertale and kind of Earthboundy, or at least emulating their styles in that type of game.
A large Let's Player had finally played Heartbound. Jacksepticeye was one of the many that Thor tried to goad into playing his game, and though he only touched on the demo that was limited to Chapter 1, Jacksepticeye loved the direction, expressing as much when he finished the demo.
Oh, that was cool! Oh, that was really, really good. I didn't expect something like that from this. I didn't think it would be that good, but I really, really like it. I can't wait to see more of this. Oh, I'm glad I played this now. That was really, really good.
Jacksepticeye's video, among many things, impacted Thor and to that extent Heartbound in two major ways. First, it directed over 1 million eyes to the project. Second, it added pressure, something Thor was having to contend with. By December, Thor had updated the launch date. Quote, "We are hoping to fully finish and release Heartbound by early to mid-2018. Originally, we wanted to finish and release the game by December 2017. I have said many times that Heartbound will never have a sequel. Taking this extra time ensures I can keep that promise because there is so much more story now than there was originally. Heartbound is very important to all of us at Pirate Software, and we want to make it the best it can be for all of you." Unquote. February 2018 came, and the launch date was pushed back yet again. Now from mid-2018 to just 2018, implying a late year release date. Now late 2018, the type of launch changed. Though it was previously meant to launch in a complete state, it was now to launch on Steam into early access in December. This commitment was kept. Heartbound released into early access on Christmas Day 2018. This version came with the addition of Chapter 2, The Tower, and sat at 95% positive ratings. About 2 weeks after release, in January 2019, Thor stated, quote, "Around 6 to 7 months ago, Thor was able to quit his day job and start working on this full time, so things have gone super quickly since then. Animus is next." Unquote. Being that Thor made some visible progress on Animus and that he quit his job, this new chapter could be expected soon. There was, however, a small issue with this tweet. Thor did not quit his job 6 or 7 months ago. He quit his job, as per his LinkedIn, well over a year ago, as lined up with Jacksepticeye playing his game in November 2017. A strange thing to get incorrect, but also inconsequential. Inconsequential like creator MatPat of Game Theory's coverage of Heartbound.
We have successfully gotten through 1.5 days here in 2019 without any major catastrophes, any like major blowups on Twitter, anything. Knock on wood, ladies and gentlemen.
No disasters.
We are nearly 2 days
in.
A kind of release, but it's not fully released, but it's kind of released, of a game that we were, keeping tabs on, kind of in the background. I don't know if you remember it. It's called Heartbound. It was kind of one of those ones that came out in the aftermath of Undertale, but goes in a very different direction with it. It's kind of got that Earthboundy Mother series feel to it, that Undertale feel to it.
Thor watched this live. The stream and VOD title was originally GT Live. The next Undertale game is here.
Stream and says for everyone watching GT Live, you can find our game Heartbound here and has their link. So they are at Pirate Software on Twitter.
There you go, Pirate Software. Arr, there you be the pirates. So you can play it yourself and make your own choices and see if it affects the ending.
Creator Jacksepticeye also pointed to Undertale as a comparison to Heartbound.
Welcome to a game called Heartbound, which I think is supposed to be a mix kind of Undertale.
While Jacksepticeye's video inspired Thor, Game Theories angered him. Quote, "I'm pretty disappointed here, and so is our community. Your recent #GT Live came across as an Undertale clickbait mashup instead of being about #Heartbound. You never linked to our game, and you got our studio name wrong as well." Unquote. Thor, in his tweet, attached 2 images. The first is of a notepad that includes the title, the description, public hashtags, and the hidden YouTube tags found in MatPat's video. Here, Thor for a second time states that there were no links to Heartbound. The description of the video is the second image, likely included to provide evidence for Thor's claims. But again, Jacksepticeye also used Undertale as a point of reference, which was inspired by the 1995 RPG Earthbound. With similar inspirations, the games do share similarities, which neither channel expressed maliciously, as Undertale is highly regarded. One noticeable difference between Game Theory's and Jacksepticeye's commentary is that Game Theory played a newer version that included Chapter 2, The Tower, a much slower, puzzle-filled, overall less guided chapter. Large swaths of it will have players wander the environment with little direction. Game Theory in particular mocked the gameplay in this chapter, that while much of the gameplay was symbolic, it was detrimental to the game's pacing and hammered across themes that were already well understood.
Moved on with the gameplay. How dare you not love your dog enough to slog through dark maze gameplay for how riveting it is. Chris.
Thanks, Chris. You're the best.
Thanks, buddy. A book with an eyeball. What a weird game. Mommy, no! Don't lock me in. Reading is fundamental.
Even with these comments, the coverage was overall positive. Yet, that did not stop Thor's tweets from gaining traction. This is when creator The Gamer from Mars covered this among some other strange comments MatPat had made in the past, like this one.
I've actually never looked at porn, ever,
Further in the video, Thor's tweets and outrage around it is covered.
Creator of the game wasn't too pleased with this stream, calling it out for a clickbait title that compared his game to Undertale, getting a name wrong, not giving what he felt was sufficient promotion, and a supposed misleading video tag. Needless to say, this criticism took off. So was this reaction justified? Well, in short, no.
MatPat, in response to the outrage, stated he doesn't review the thumbnail, tags, description, etc. His employees do. But even so, he takes responsibility for their decisions. Even with that, he explains that the clickbait nature of some of the videos serve to both get the video to a wider audience and the small games he covers to that same audience. Furthermore, MatPat clarifies that Thor's game is great. Regarding the issue of linking directly to the game in the description, he states it's not something that Game Theory does. This is when Toby Fox, the creator of Undertale, commented, quote, "You should link to any game you play. Creators need all the help they can get, and think carefully if you're misleading your audience with how you present your videos. You went too far this time." Unquote. Thor, at a later date, would claim that Toby Fox's tweet immediately stopped threats and doxings that were allegedly coming from Game Theory's community. Thor claims that the harassment was so bad that he nearly cancelled his game. Eventually, MatPat succumbed to the pressure and added a link to Heartbound in the video's description. A smarter move at the time because of who Thor had the potential to become. Developers such as Toby Fox and Scott Cawthon are famously known for the success of their indie games and are looked upon with admiration as their games are a large extension of themselves. Large studios, because of all the names attached to projects, are rarely known for their individual developers. On the flip side, there are indie developers who are praised for their unique or beloved games only for them to destroy their reputation. So much so that it even erodes interest in their game. This is the exact case of the Yonder 8 dev, who was previously covered on this channel. This is why reputation is highly important as an indie developer, especially for those that made the choice to become public figures like Thor was doing. Every one of these purple squares represents a day that Thor streamed in 2019. The opacity is dependent on how long he streamed, meaning the darker the purple, the more hours he streamed that day. On average, Thor streamed 5 to 10 hours under Science and Technology and also the Art category. Thor, as he claims, was streaming himself developing Heartbound. This interview, conducted by GameDeveloper.com, reads, quote, "The next step was proving to everyone who invested in our game that we are not going to run away with their money. Because that's a big problem for Kickstarter games. People go and throw money at a Kickstarter. Then the devs will disappear for 2 years, then come back and make something that wasn't up to par compared to what they promised in the Kickstarter. So we thought, what if we streamed it all? Full open development. They could see every single thing that we ever do, and no one could say the devs ran away with the money." Unquote. Thor did not exclusively stream Heartbound development. This is a stream circa May 2019 of him building a chair.
Back on this chair now, but I don't know how, because I threw the instructions.
Presumably this same month, he also streamed himself playing The Division 2, as his 26-second highlight video was also uploaded in May.
It means the world to me, and I'm just going to say, I'll always be here, throwing bits and supporting you.
While the commentary is not of note, Thor's deeper voice was, or at least it would be as part of a strange footnote in his undoing. For now, the goal was Animus. Chapter 1 was made while working at Blizzard and Amazon Game Studios. Chapter 2 took 2 years, though half the time Thor had a job keeping him from dedicated development of debilitating illness in the last 3 months. Here, Thor also calls it a cold. Thor continued to tweet about this illness until March 16th, where he stated he had been feeling better, but by the 17th he was feeling far worse. He claims he was diagnosed with pneumonia and was given a COVID test, which he was waiting for the results of. 4 days later, he stated that he tested negative for COVID and only had pneumonia. With his illness diagnosed, he would no doubt begin receiving proper treatment and improve. Except on the 23rd, Thor now tweeted that he was misdiagnosed. It was not COVID or pneumonia. Instead, it was bronchitis. A week from that tweet, on the 30th, Thor now marks this as day 30 of his illness and reminds his audience that he tested negative for COVID. Then in April, he tweeted that he was getting better, then worse. Then on the 10th, finally the cold was defeated. Thor went as far to say, quote-unquote, this time for good. The following month, Thor on Steam released an update to address the lack of them. Quote, reason for delay. Animus was set to be released by now. For the last several months, I've been in and out of hospital with severe viral bronchitis, lost around 70% lung function at one point, and went to hypoxia and almost bit the big one. Thankfully, with treatment, I've been doing much better. I ended up losing around 2.5 months of work, and the stream was offline for over a month total. This is the most amount of work I've missed in 3 years, so it's been pretty rough. Unquote. Below, Thor posts an image of his stream frequency, noting how much he had not streamed in April and May due to his illness. Finally, in July, Heartbound was updated, but only with a small portion of Animus added. Quote, you can now play through some of Fern and Road's storyline in ENUS only. Unquote. 4 months later, now in November, Thor tweets, quote, after nearly 8 months of recovery, my lungs are well enough to steam and work on a daily basis again. Thank you for all of the support and good vibes to get me back here. Unquote. It is now the 1st of January 2021. Animus has not been delivered and is now a year delayed, but Thor in this tweet reassures his audience that it is coming. Quote, hashtag Heartbound is the main priority. Animus will absolutely be done soon. Now that I'm no longer recovering from COVID, things will go much faster. We're also working on a commissioned game on the side that should be fun. Unquote. Now Thor claims he had COVID. It went from a cold to pneumonia to bronchitis to testing negative from COVID to now rewriting it all as COVID. Users were none too pleased with the lack of development. KO on Twitter tweeted, quote, don't get your hopes up. According to interviews, Act 3 is in development since over 1.5 years, and the game is supposed to have 5 acts. Also, sorry, P.S. I love the game, but I am fed up with being played. Unquote. Thor responds, stating again that he had COVID and rewrites the recovery period from 8 months to roughly 9 months. And he also states he needs to use an inhaler for the rest of his life. Thor adds that the state of his lungs have improved and that he can at least work again. Now, September 2021, Thor teases at Animus and reassures a commenter that it is nearly here. But these excuses were no longer satisfactory. On Twitter, a Portuguese fan tweeted that Chapter 2 of Deltarune had already come out, yet there is still no new content for Heartbound. Thor contests this by stating he streams his development every day, and that Animus is 92% finished. This would seem impressive until one compares it to the last numerical update on progress, which happened in October 19, 2019 at 86%. This means, by Thor's own metric, he had only developed 6% of a single chapter in almost 2 years. What's more, Thor had retconned the window he had been sick, where it had previously jumped from 8 months to roughly 9. In September of 2021, he now states, quote, I caught COVID in early 2020 and lost nearly a year of development time in recovery. Thankfully not dead, but mad that I lost so much time. Unquote. On the topic of lost time, Thor, in the middle of 2021, ran for a seat on the Council of Stellar Management in the video game game EVE Online, a position where the council members act as a representative of the player base to deliver ideas and requests to the game's developers. EVE Online is an MMO that, as per any of the genre, consumes a vast amount of players' time. But not only was Thor playing EVE and running for the council, he was also a leader of his own corporation known as Dragbog Clade. This could explain the absence of steady updates. It would be several months until Thor provided information on Animus. As now patterned, in 2022, he was delivering not Animus, but more bad news, now regarding his partner Shay.
Shay does all of the art and animation for the entire studio. Anytime you see messages on Twitter with art on it, anytime you see any of the art in the video game, anytime you see any of our merchandise, any of that stuff, it's all made by Shay. Shay hurt his back badly. He's been going back and forth to the doctor. He's not allowed to lift anything. He's not allowed to like move around or anything like that. He has to walk around with a cane, and I've just been taking care of him the whole time. So I have to take care of all the pets. I have to take care of everything in the house. Shay can't lift anything. He can't do anything on his own. So because of that, most of my time has been spent on that. It's why I haven't streamed very often this month. It's been about half the days of the month I haven't streamed that I normally would. It's just because of this. So don't worry. I haven't quit working on the game. I'm not dead. Like, everything is... It's okay, but we're trying to find out what's wrong with Shay to get him repaired like a robot, right?
2 months later, Thor published another video containing hope that Animus was nearly here, and an excuse that would all but guarantee its delay.
All of the stuff for Avocado's finished. All the stuff for the Misery and Mania middle story area is finished, and most of the stuff for the Mossbacks are finished. So that is the end of Animus, basically. So all of that is finished. Animus just has the final scene, and we're finished with it, and it's done. And we can move on to Jotunheim, which is about Vikings and combat and you know, conflict resolution and all that cool stuff. And that's the end of the primary chapters in Heartbound. And then it's just the end of the game. That's it. We're basically at the end here. It's finally happening. My doctor has diagnosed me now with what's called trigeminal neuralgia. There's a nerve that goes like this on your face. It's a trigeminal nerve, three-prong tri, right? And it comes out of your brainstem, goes to about here. It is like you have worms in your bones that are made out of fire. It is the most devastating pain I have ever felt in my entire life.
Thor also discusses the failing health of his cat and the time needed to monitor it.
But that's it. That's really it. It's just taking care of my cat. And I'm amazed she's still alive. So if you're upset that stuff hasn't come out, if you're upset that I haven't made these videos, I understand. Sorry. But to not mince words about it, this is the worst 2 months I think I've ever had in my life. And it's not going to stop me from making this game.
Since its initial deadline, Animus has been delayed 2 years and about 5 months. Thor, in comparison, sped through the first 2 chapters, so why is this one so different? Thor attempts to answer this also in his update video.
And Animus took so long to build because it is the most complicated chapter in Heartbound. Most of the rooms in Animus take between 15 and 40 kind of, you know, timelines that can go through them. There are different routes through all of those different sections because human interaction is so complex. It's not just about yes or no to someone. It's about yes or no, and also how did you treat them before? How did you treat them before that? And if you're mad that it took a long time, well, I'm sorry. And for me, I'm just going to make it as realistic and interesting in terms of character interaction as I possibly can.
Animus, at least the segment of it that exists in the game, has the largest number of distinct characters of the 3 chapters. A core tenet of Heartbound since the game's inception is player choice.
So Heartbound is a game that is about player choice. And let me be clear about this. You've probably heard that before, right? You've heard about a game that's of player choice, and it always ends up being some kind of narrative route that's sort of dog shit, right? It ends up being something that looks like this, where the route doesn't actually matter. The beginning and the ending is exactly the same. You may have like one line of dialogue that's different, but it ends up not mattering in the end. You always get the same ending, and it sort of doesn't matter at all. Let me show you what Heartbound does. Understand this is just 3 rooms. These are all the interactions and how they play into each other in those rooms. There are thousands of routes in Heartbound. There are thousands of routes in Heartbound. Everything you do in the game matters. And they're all distinct from each other. There's a ton of interactions that you will never see. Anything you ever see me working on stream, it won't matter. People will say spoilers in the chat, but there are many routes in there that no one's ever found. There are rooms that no one has ever seen.
Thor had always desired to make individual choices and exploration echo louder than potentially any other game, like he tried to do with Chapter 1. For example, whenever you feed your dog Baron garbage or dog food, it largely helps determine the moral representation of the main character later on. This makes sense as the game's themes deal with morality and choosing to be either helpful or detrimental to others, which ties into Lor's relationship with his parents. Animus so far does have these moral choices, but rather than having them tie back to the story of Lor or the relationship with his parents or even his dog, they are mostly done to expand the stories of secondary characters or just to explore the morality of the player's choice. Furthermore, though Thor totes the expansiveness of branching paths and happenings, there are many choices that end up being either detrimental to gameplay or entirely meaningless.
I have always loved the idea of a choose-your-own-adventure comic book, choose-your-own-adventure video game, and I have made Butterfly Effect the game. Every environment in the entire game has usually dozens to hundreds of routes, all of them. In fact, one of the really easy ways to check something that you've done or not is in the very beginning of the game, your bedroom. You can actually leave the bedroom without ever putting on your sweater. And all of the animations for the rest of the entire game change. And the ways that characters interact with you and address you is different because you're not wearing your sweater. And your health is cut in half for the rest of the game. And even as tiny things, a little small example, if you go and meet one of the characters while wearing your pajamas, which is Shelly, then save outside of her house, then put on your sweater after doing the save, then go back in and meet her inside of her house with your sweater on now, she comments on it. Because 2 seconds ago you weren't wearing a sweater and she doesn't understand.
Not only does this deceptively consequential decision make encounters twice as hard, Thor finds it important enough to have a secondary character comment on it if you decide to put the sweater on later in game in a very specific spot. In attempting to circumvent meaningless choice, he has only created them. At one point in development, quote, prior to patch 1.0.8b, but not patch 1.03b, the Jotunheim paths were determined by if the stove in Lor's house is turned on. The Muspelheim path would be activated if you turn the stove on. The Niflheim path would be activated if you left the stove off. Unquote. The determinant on which chapter the player could visit, and to that extent would be barred from visiting, was choosing to turn an appliance on or leave it off. A decision that the game would even fail to highlight the importance of.
I like this, they're like Shaggy and Scooby. Turn on the stove. Great. Now it's a fire hazard.
What determines this path now is a value known as curiosity. On Reddit, a user expands on these values and emphasizes that these are only known because Thor talks about them. Quote, fear and curiosity are two hidden variables, both of which we only know because of the live streams. Curiosity is how many things you interact with. High curiosity will make Jotunheim, Act 4 rightmost portal, be Muspelheim, lava, while low curiosity will make Jotunheim, be Niflheim, ice. Fear is quote-unquote evilness, increasing when you feed Baron the garbage, throw away the Viking feast, steal Binder's apple, etc. There are many ways to decrease fear, but the only one I know about is taking the dog figurine. There are probably more hidden variables we don't know about yet, but I'm sure once the game is released, we'll start learning about them from the data miners. Unquote. Though Thor emphasizes the importance of individual choice, he has still used simplified systems to calculate outcomes, such as with the karma system found in Fallout 3 that places decisions as either good or bad. It is this desire of complexity that Thor claims is delaying his game. What was meant to only be an element of Heartbound was now overshadowing everything else. What drew praise from Jacksepticeye was not the choice in the demo, it was the tonal themes and mystery of what happened to Baron or what Baron even represents. It was what Heartbound used to be when Thor initially conceptualized it as a comic. Not only is the novelty of choice delaying the game far beyond when it was meant to release, it is assuring that the game's community lacks in shared experiences and diminishes the game's ability to tell a crafted story, as it hands that off to a reflection of an endless list of choices that often have imperceivable weight. And that is Heartbound, and to that extent, Thor's core issue. He aims to make a game praised for its novelty, for its branching paths and routes resembling a puzzle rather than a story. While Thor's motivation for this change in focus is unclear, it could all be tied back to one of his inspirations. Not an inspiration listed on his initial post about the concept of Heartbound, rather an inspiration that he has shown himself to despise being compared to.
Can you pinpoint where along your journey growing up that you decided that you wanted to pursue gaming professionally or game development professionally, or did it just sort of happen that way?
So like I always kind of wanted to do that. I was always like, man, one day I'm going to do that. I'm working in AAA and one day I'm going to go, leave AAA and do this. And then it was funny because Undertale came out and I was like, what the hell am I waiting for? Right? Like if somebody can go make something like this and they can do it where there's flaws in it. There's like art flaws. There's like storyline. There's little pieces that are, it's an indie, right? And you see that and you're like, well, why am I not doing this?
This is all possibly tied back to Undertale. Before the large-scale comparisons of Heartbound to Undertale, Thor was working at a much faster rate. It took him nearly 2 years to release 2 chapters into early access. Now he has been stuck on a single chapter for nearly 3 years. A chapter that he was working on when MatPat covered his game and compared it to Undertale, which infuriated Thor. This possible ambition to set Heartbound apart from even Undertale, a highly praised game, could be fueling continued delays and, to that extent, frustration from a lack of progress from both Thor and his supporters. The more Thor promises, the higher potential to underdeliver.
So Heartbound is the most anticipated of 2022 for the Game Maker Awards, which is freaking rad. You guys are awesome. Next thing up for me is to go and release the rest of the Mossback storyline and then finish Animus off. And I am going to have that done probably in the next month or 2, unless something horrible happens. Gadget passed away. I've taken the last week and a half off, and just kind of dealing with it. I had her for 18 years, so it's a long time.
Thor's cat had passed away, and Thor was taking time to mourn. By October, he announced he was back and ready to work to finish Animus.
And when this stuff gets translated, right there, just these kind of little blips here, the next patch goes out. Then I do this stuff. And then the chapter's done. That's it. That's the end of Animus.
2 more months passed without Animus. On Twitter, Thor again hints at the release of the chapter, this time giving a visual representation on how much is left to finish. There are only 3 scenes requiring programming and 3 other scenes where programming is half finished. In a video released this same month, Thor again sets a deadline.
So 2023 is the year, man. That's how I feel right now. It seems extremely likely, like very, very high likelihood that we will get all this done in this next year, which is crazy. And it feels weird, but we're there, man.
This deadline was missed. Thor explains that he found too many bugs, which stole his attention.
As you can see here, let's pull this over. A lot of this patch was bug fixes, massive amount. I needed to set up the stage for me to release content faster, so the last 2 to 3 months have been me just fixing things.
Earlier in this video, Thor showed his visual content tracker. Comparing this to the tweet of the same tracker 2 months ago shows that he added 4 new, incomplete scenes between Picnic and Lost. Below Vapor Cave are also 4 other incomplete scenes. Animus has now been delayed 3 years since its initial deadline. If it was not clear that finishing this game was not his priority, the statements made in this video and the ones following it would demonstrate as much.
I have another cool announcement. In the background, secretly, for a very long period of time, not really secretly, but people inside of the Discord know about this, we've been working on a custom Minecraft server. It's called Block Game, because it's funny to call it Block Game. But basically, this is an MMO, and we have hundreds of craftable items, hundreds of custom monsters, dungeons, like all kinds of stuff, different worlds, all kinds of stuff that's in there, and we've been having a lot of fun playing it.
Besides attempting to create a literal MMO in Minecraft, Thor in April 2023 announces another time-consuming, albeit far better received initiative.
It's twitch.tv/ferret software, so I managed to get ferret software, and the main channel is /pirate software, which is pretty good, but it's a 24/7 animal cam. You can go and watch them anytime, and that's it. That's it. You can just go see the ferrets.
This was the start of what would blossom as an animal rescue for ferrets. While these in themselves could be a better excuse for up to delays, Thor will pull out his oldest excuse to not work on Heartbound. Quote, positive for COVID, system offline for a bit. Body aches, fever, and sludge everywhere. 103.2 fever. Heading to the ER. Back home, fever gone. I no longer have a sense of taste or smell.
The lungus is gone. Still my sense of smell. So I never lost my sense of smell. You know what I lost that was really weird? And it was caused by the happy hypoxia. I lost the temperature feeling of hot and cold.
With this bout of illness, rather than extend the recovery period to a year, it was less than a month.
Kind of a short one. I'm sorry I didn't get more stuff done, but that was a hell of a thing. That's the second time I've gotten COVID. The first time took 9 months to recover. This one took Probably about, I think it was in total about 20 days.
With Thor's recounting of his recent illness and the one that took place 3 years prior, we can now piece it all together to show the absurd picture he has created. Initially in 2020, he got sick. It was pneumonia and not COVID because he tested negative for it. Then bronchitis, then a cold, then COVID. While these in themselves were two different instances of Thor being sick in 2020, he wrapped them together and stated they caused a 2.5-month delay where he stated he was doing much better. He somehow extended this to 8 months of illness, then to 9, then to a year, then back down to 9 months of illness. In 2023, in this new case, he states he had COVID for 20 days. Assuming Thor was entirely truthful, that would be 9 months and 20 days lost to COVID. However, Thor inarguably lies when he states he lost more than double this time to COVID.
It's taken me about the last 7 years, minus 2 years because I had COVID. I almost bit it on that, which sucked. But so it's been about 5 years of dev time.
It gets worse. Thor at some point added another 6 months to the amount of dev time lost.
How long have you been working in this game? Was the coding a solo job? Yeah. Nobody else has touched the code base for Heartbound ever except for me. It's just me. I've been working on it for about 7 years, but I lost 2.5 years to COVID. It is a monumental kind of effort for this. How did it affect me? Well, my recovery was about 2.5 years, so I got long COVID. I can actually show you this in data. Kind of wild. We'll go to streams. I used to stream 7 days a week back in the day. And right here is where I went to DreamHack in January 2020, and I got COVID. And you can see what happened to my stream schedule. There were like months where I just streamed like 3 days. You could actually watch it happen. And then like I finally recovered, and I was able to start doing stuff again. And then like we fixed the fungus problem, and then I was able to do stuff again, and everything was cool. And I've been able to do it ever since, and I've gone back to being able to stream. Yep. So like you can see my recovery in data. Yeah. So like anybody that's like, it's not real or anything.
It is important to recall that Thor claims he could not work efficiently during this time, but he could develop a ferret rescue, develop a Minecraft MMO server, and sink countless hours into EVE Online. Yet, Thor kept this facade going. He continued to desire to appear as an active developer. In late 2023, Thor sets and misses what is his third deadline for the release of Animus. What's more, he gives a deadline for the release of all of Heartbound.
And then, after that, Hall of Heartbound out by 2024.
In December 2023, after exhausting his previous excuses for delays, he has deployed a new one. Quote, I wanted to get a content patch out this month, but the community has increased over 50 times due to an explosion of our YouTube content. This took a lot of management and time to batten down the hatches and get everything organized. As a studio, we're way stronger now as a result, and there are so many of you here and enjoying the game that it's overwhelming. Thank you for everything, and I hope you enjoy what comes next. Unquote.
Hello, everyone! I am super glad to be back with the one and only Pirate Software!
He's taken over my shorts feed. There's just something about this guy that's like, he's a real person.
Pirate Software, who has recently blown up. He is somebody with an amazing resume.
Hi, my name is Thor. I've been in the fart industry for 20 years. I worked for Fart Entertainment, Fart Game Studios, and the United States Department of Flatulence, and now I own my own studio called Pirate Fartware.
Been in the gaming industry for 18 years. Used to work at Blizzard Entertainment.
I'm a hacker. I've been a hacker for 20 years. I've been an offensive security specialist for 20 years, dude.
Now I make games on the internet, and this is what I've done full time for the last 5 years. I just make games.
I'm a fart developer, a farter, and a giant fart.
Thor's channel from September 2023 to October of that year jumped 10 times in views. This was a jump from 29,000 to 300,000 views a month. This increase is only significant because of the jump in views. However, the jump from October to December of 2023 is unfathomably large. This is a 76,000% jump in views. Pirate went from virtually having no following to surpassing 1 million YouTube subscribers. These were virtually all from YouTube Shorts, a format that was YouTube's answer to competitor TikTok's short-form content, and Thor was the king of it. Everyone was learning about Pirate Software, the game developer that uses MS Paint in his shorts.
MS Paint is king. MS Paint is my favorite program ever.
Within these shorts, Thor establishes his would-be credibility. He listed all the studios he worked at, spread the fame of his father, and made it clear that he is a game dev. This worked to make him appear as an authority figure on all subjects related to gaming, even something like World of Warcraft.
Also, whoever said World of Warcraft, WoW is not difficult. And that's coming from someone who is a Mythic Raider, dude. It's never been difficult at all. Here's how you beat WoW. Stop standing in fire, you dumbass. That's it. That's 100% it. Oh, look! There's a colored thing on the floor. I shouldn't stand in that.
One important, particularly arrogant element of Thor's shorts is he'd sometimes put others down to put himself up. Thor, in being reductive in describing the difficulty of World of Warcraft, makes a statement that he is both good at the game and that deaths or failures in-game are superbly easy to avoid. Any failure means you're a bad player. In hindsight, some of these statements have glaring hypocrisy.
I hate Mojang's mob votes. And the reason why is I put more content in a day into Block Game than they do in an entire year plus a mob vote. And they just throw the other couple of characters away. You could just do all 3 of those in a day of implementation. That shit is so freaking easy. How many people work at Mojang? Like, what the hell is that shit? That makes no goddamn sense to me. Make all 3 of them and shut up. Why don't you put in the modding API that you promised everybody like 10 years ago? Maybe do that shit. Lazy as shit. Insane. Insane at Mojang.
The following is from a separate short.
Dude, it's always one of the things where it's like really easy for people to be like, devs are lazy because this feature isn't in this video game. But like, no, that's not how that shit works. Like, every single game is a different framework. Every single game does things differently, and sometimes things are more or less difficult based on the way that they've architected that entirety of that game. So it's really hard to say like, oh, this is easy or that is easy. And usually to the layman, the person who's not working in those games, everything is easy because they've never done it before. And they're like, it's just a camera. My dude. I've spent like 3 months working on a camera before.
Thor in these shorts was a guru. He was the voice of reason, yet also a scathing critic. There were so many fresh eyes on him, so many people admiring his backstory, and what appeared to be a passion for game design, he managed to convince millions of his success. He was a fraud hiding in plain sight.
You guys have thrown so many subscriptions at the channel that we're now ranked 55 in the world. Thank you for everything. That is incredibly humbling.
There were questions asked about inconsistencies found in his content, but Thor always had an explanation, like why his voice changed.
Went back to the doctor, doctor's like, hey, sometimes in your early 30s, your voice can change as a man, and it's effectively second puberty. This is what I used to sound like. That's what I used to look like to this 5 years ago. Wait for this. This is awful.
My hot dogs are freshly picked. I'm gonna have to peel it. I'm gonna have to peel my hot dog.
Yeah, that was it, dude.
While his excuses failed to convince all, they were passable likely because people like Thor, and had little reason to question him. As such, Thor on Twitter could be found exercising his authority, commenting on controversies, typically leading with his experience as a game developer or hacker. Naturally, he would be nominated for the Best Software and Game Development Streamer of 2023 at the 2024 Streamer Awards.
And the winner goes to the man with the voice changer, Pirate Software.
Thor's success easily translated to money. Though he had previously beat the Twitch hype train record at level 55, he nearly doubled that in 2024. A hype train on Twitch appears when there is a surge of monetary support, either through channel bits, which can be purchased with money, or subscriptions, which are also purchased with money. The Verge estimates that Thor made a healthy 6-figure sum for breaking this record alone. This comes from Thor's popularity, which is attached to his credibility, and that is also attached to his game. With more eyes on Thor, there were now more eyes prying into his history and Heartbound. A Steam user on the discussion section of Heartbound posed a simple question: will this game be released? Another responds, quote, I do think it's weird that the devs say they work on it every day on Steam, when if you watch their streams, they barely ever work on it. Then they explain all the other stuff they do off stream, and it makes me wonder how they have any time left to even work on the game. I'm really hoping it comes out soon, because the dev did say it's supposed to come out this year. Also, to clarify, I am 100% for devs taking as long as they need to work on a game, but it's a bit different when you release a game in early access that has been in EA for 6 years now that people paid for it. You should be working to get it done as fast as you can, since you decided to release it in early access. Now, if it wasn't in early access, I wouldn't have that complaint, unquote. Thor responded to this user, citing his busy schedule, but also stating, quote, and despite that, I still managed to finish up the entire environment for the last area in Animus, most of which was done on stream. Perception is not reality. I work on a Heartbound every day, unquote. Thor was now experiencing a new degree of pressure, as when he promoted himself, he promoted Heartbound, the game with thousands of distinct routes, one that he worked on stream because it had so many routes and he could not possibly spoil them all. Except now, Thor was saying the game could be spoiled.
Someone asked, why do you work on this off stream? Because it's full of spoilers. There's so many things in this that I don't want to show to people, or things that just aren't ready, that if I show you on stream, it's just going to ruin pieces. Like, nah. Yeah, like, nah. Likely you'll never see those locations, But in the off chance you would, I don't want you to be spoiled.
Likely to quell the building displeasure from the lack of visible progress, Thor was aiming to convince the public progress was being made off-stream, though he still claimed to be working on the game on-stream, despite viewers citing the lack of that exact thing happening.
General standard was there's a whole bunch of these games that do Kickstarters and they run away with the money. So I was like, how do I fix that? And the compelling factor stepped in and said, why don't you stream all of it? Why don't you just show everybody? Also breaks the perception of he's not working on anything. I can see him working. It removes any whispers of that immediately because people can see it. There's a track record for that.
Thor had his audience convinced. Even those reporting on him felt no reason to challenge his claims.
He kept himself accountable, and I think this is one of the things that's really interesting is you can see the development of the game, the evolution, and almost like there's a charm to that of the documentation of creating something that you're genuinely passionate about. And seeing Thor's success to this point kind of is that accumulation of that, of hard work, putting the work in, seeing it come to life, and seeing the result of it.
Thor, well into 2024, was still getting over 100 million views every month. His appeals to authority were getting more aggressive, but they, to the masses, appeared earned. So much so that creator Ludwig announced that he was making a game publishing company. Thor was to play a part in said company as the director of strategy, stating his job was to help pick games and to protect developers during contract negotiations. Thor was unstoppable. In July, his YouTube channel reached 2 million subscribers. An article by Mashable also released this month. It covers Thor's tremendous growth, his game Heartbound, and even talks about his time at Blizzard. Quote, it helped that he was a Nepo baby since his dad Joey Ray Hall had spent over 2 decades at the industry titan since almost the very beginning, unquote. Though this article gives positive coverage on Thor, as it is largely about his achievements, Thor was not pleased with that one sentence. Quote, we had a brief interview at a convention recently and you asked me many questions about my career, life, and community. This article starts by declaring me a quote-unquote Nepo baby and then tries to walk it back for the rest. My father's career had nothing to do with mine outside of a 6-month game tester internship I had when I was 16 that went nowhere. I spent 20 years in the industry and earned every minute of it, unquote.
Yeah, really not a fan of that. Not a fan of that. It's one of those things that I've been trying to fight my entire career. It's one of the things that I've had to argue with people in chat about. It's one of the things that we ban people for here. Anytime people say shit like that, because it's deeply disrespectful and it completely overwrites any of the things that I've done throughout my career as something that is somebody else's success, which they have not been in any possible respect. And it's just rude as fuck. So, what do you say? In the thing, he said it was he called me a Nepo baby in his article. No, that's dog shit behavior. Really gross.
Thor has called himself a Nepo baby. He has admitted his first job at Blizzard was obtained from his father, but he takes issue with this with his second hiring, as he states he was hired under his own merit. Thor would use this clip of his father stating how an employee did not know his connection to Thor.
I remember one time he had, his boss had come to me because he came to me to apologize that one of his people talked to me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, well, Thor came up and was talking to you, and I don't think that's appropriate and stuff like that. I'm like, okay. I go, just so you know, I'm going to keep talking to Thor when he comes and talks to me because he's my son.
Then this is Thor in an interview recalling this same story, only adding a very important detail.
QA was like, why are you talking to Joey Ray? Because I was talking to him in the quad in front of, like in the middle of campus at Blizzard. And I was like, that's my dad. And he goes, what? It just like freaked him out. I was like, yeah, that's him. I just never told you because it's not relevant to my job. That's kind of the point. So yeah, no one knew. And it was kind of like an open secret, I guess. The people who knew, but it didn't matter. And that was the whole idea behind it.
Thor here clearly states people, perhaps not that employee, knew that he was an executive's son. This is something his ex-coworker Cynthia will later attest to, and how his protection allowed him to ostensibly do whatever he wanted. Not only did Thor tweet directly detesting the article and stream himself expressing the same thing, but also would desperately try to retract the Nepo baby claim through other means.
He actually contacted the event that I had interviewed him at and had the event reach out to me in an attempt to try to get the fact that I called him a Nepo baby taken out of the article, that has never happened before or since.
That was from an interview of the article's author conducted by creator Chud Logic several months down the line. Happenings such as this serve to flesh out the worst parts of Thor, but they don't cause much disruption outside of the few people involved. That much cannot be said about Stop Killing games.
I'm not saying all multiplayer games should have private servers, at least while they're running. But once they're ready to shut down that central server, then they're the only option left.
That was from a 2018 video from the channel Occurs Farms, run by Ross Scott, who has been posting on YouTube for nearly 2 decades. For several years, Ross, beyond his other content, such as Freeman's Mind, in where he writes and narrates the would-be inner thoughts of the Half-Life protagonist Gordon Freeman, has made videos covering dead games. Not so much dead in the sense of a diminished player base, but dead in the sense of entire inaccessibility. A frequent example is when a multiplayer game becomes unprofitable, so the developer pulls a plug on the dedicated servers, which are the only servers that were ever available. This makes a game entirely inaccessible if there were no player-run servers, in some cases entirely erased. In 2024, Ubisoft killed the online component of the game The Crew, a racing game that is touted for its expansive map representing the United States. But in this case, killing the online component did not just make certain that players could not access the multiplayer, it meant that the game could not be accessed at all. In simple terms, to play the game, even alone in single-player sections, you had to connect to Ubisoft servers, but now players cannot do that because of the DRM, or Digital Rights Management. A system that was previously meant to combat piracy was now responsible for making the game inaccessible to everyone. This was a breaking point, and the realization for many that modern games were not purchased. They were not owned by the player, they were just licensed. Many saw this as anti-consumer, including Ross Scott, but he also saw a potential solution.
Well, we've launched a European Citizens Initiative, which would introduce new law in the EU to stop this. And if we get enough signatures, 1 million, yeah, I know, then there's a real chance this could pass into law.
In short, Ross Scott, alongside other organizers, were using the Europeans' Citizens Initiative to hopefully set legal precedent to stop publishers from killing their games. But it needs at least 1 million signatures from Europeans, and from there the process begins to implement a realistic version of this into the law. Once this is set up in the EU, it is likely similar laws will be adopted in other countries. Ross Scott seeks game preservation for the sake of art preservation, and for consumer protection. He floats examples of what a finalized law could look like, but then states that the end goal is one thing.
Publishers can continue doing whatever they want, as long as you get to keep your game. It amazes me when some people say that's going too far in favor of the consumer. Though to be fair, that's probably not most Europeans. The idea here is we're just trying to stop games from being destroyed. That's it.
Pirate Software, learning of this initiative on August 1st, immediately took issue with it.
The problem is this. I work in the games industry. I have for 20 years. This looks like a nightmare to me. It looks vaguely written as shit. So this would not require publishers to assume liability for the customer actions, except it would, because every single time that somebody would go off and create a private server, and that private server would have problems, do you know who gets tickets for it? The parent company that made the original game. Do you know how I know that? Because we got tens of thousands of tickets at Blizzard for private servers for World of Warcraft. This is the most uneducated take I have ever seen in games.
The idea here
Jesus
is we're
Christ.
just trying to stop games from being destroyed. That's it.
No games are being destroyed here. These are live service games.
So we're taking as narrow an approach as possible that still solves the problem.
A narrow approach as possible. Let's destroy all live service games, be completely disingenuous about the reasoning behind it, and say that we're saving games. That's really narrow, right? Yeah, very good.
Thor is being disingenuous with his coverage. Whether or not it is studios only selling licenses to their games, these games are becoming inaccessible. They are being killed in one way or another. Even Thor's example for World of Warcraft private servers does not hold up. In 2016, Blizzard sent a cease and desist to a popular private server running a much older but beloved version of the game, leading to the server's closure.
The thing is, you guys refuse to add your own servers. You refuse to do it. So Nostalrius does it. And you literally went out of your way and you got them shut down. It was your game. That was so good.
That was Soda Poppin'. one of the most famous, longest-running streamers who has made his name largely playing World of Warcraft. Nostalrius, in the end, demonstrated a desire for players for a classic iteration of the game to be made, one devoid of poorly received expansions and microtransactions. Since then, Blizzard has been running its classic servers since consumers made the desire clear. As does Stop Killing Games, this opens up conversation about IP protection. Yet it also counters what is perceived as planned obsolescence of a game to shift focus to its upcoming sequels, as is the case of Overwatch 2. This only touches on some of the complexities involving the full implementation. The first step was to get a foot in the door, and Thor, rather than suggest what could be optimal implementation, was only working against it.
Finally, this is a diversion from really serious topics that politicians would prefer not to deal with.
So you're socially engineering politicians that don't know anything about the subject matter to try and push through an initiative about an industry you clearly don't understand to stop killing video games in a way that would kill all live service games. Am I getting that right?
Thor was not getting that right. The initiative as it was written was not set in stone. Regardless, he was completely against it.
Okay, I'm going to be 100% real with you. I don't need to see a damn other word. He's clearly displayed all of the take on this. This would absolutely be targeting live service games, and it's specifically trying to get pushed through in a disingenuous manner because they're targeting politicians that know nothing about the field. This is shit. It's shit. Not only do I not want to back this, I'm going to actively tell people not to. That is awful. That is a horrible goddamn direction. 100%. That's not stop killing games. That's start killing games is what that shit stands for.
Ross Scott commented on Thor's VOD, quote, "I think there's a combination of values clash and a misunderstanding on much of what we're asking for. For example, WoW will likely be exempt from this measure since it's considered under the law as a true service. In other words, the customer is told explicitly when their access ends at the time of payment. Most live service games do not do this, which could run afoul of EU law. There were many misunderstandings in your video. It's clear you hate the initiative, and I doubt I would change that, but I would encourage you to at least hate it for what it accurately is." Unquote. Ross Scott names Pirate Software as the highest profile person against the initiative, and invites him to have a discussion where things could be clarified. Thor responded the following day.
Where we could at least clarify things, but your choice. I don't think I want to do that. And the reason why is this. It is because specifically your video that made me not interested in wanting to talk to you. It is specifically this portion of your video, right here, where you discuss reasons why your initiative could pass. And your description of this, I find to be disgusting. So politicians are going to put this forward because it's an easy win, they don't understand the subject matter, and it's a diversion from more serious issues. I don't have any respect for that. And I don't have any reason to have a conversation with you because of this. Good luck. I can't align myself with a person that is doing that. That's really gross, dude.
Thor, as the largest voice in opposition of an initiative, is not engaging with it because of Ross Scott's cynical joke about politicians. Instead, Thor released not one, but two videos, uploaded on August 6th and August 7th, addressing stop killing games. Naturally, Thor opens the first video with an appeal to authority.
Hi. My name is Jason Thor Hall, also known as Pirate Software Online. I've been in the gaming industry for about 20 years. I used to work at Blizzard Entertainment, then Amazon Game Studios, and now I own my own studio, Pirate Software, by the same name, which is an indie studio, and I've been here for about 8 years now. So why did this start in the first place? What is the specific cases they've called out that are egregious? And they have one. It's The Crew. So, action on The Crew. The video game The Crew, published by Ubisoft, was recently destroyed for all players and had a player base of at least 12 million people. First off, I don't like the idea in this that it has a player base of 12 million people. That is not how long-running games work. On March 31st, 2024, Ubisoft shut down the game's servers, rendering the game unplayable, which is normal for live service games. The only thing that I can see in here that could be a problem is if they post it as not an online-only experience. But everything that I found online shows that the game was always marketed as online only.
This much is true. It is somewhat deceptive on Stop Killing Games to state that the crew's player base is 12 million. While it might have 12 million owners, this could be misinterpreted as the game having 12 million active users. Additionally, the game's box did state an online connection was required.
If you're going to be buying an online only game, that means it can only run when it's online.
And if the servers need to shut down in the future, far in the future, it makes sense to me for the access to that game to be cut, if it's online only. If it's a single-player experience that has online-only functionality specifically just to shut down the game in the future, and the online only doesn't actually add any gameplay functionality, I'd agree with you. That's a shitty business practice.
Creator Whammy reported on the hidden offline mode.
And as you can see, it clearly says play online and play offline. Sadly, we can't properly activate this boot selection menu yet because of the game's horrible DRM.
The existence of a possibly full offline mode does defeat Thor's arguments. What helps counter Thor even better are his own words. Thor, when news of the crew shutdown first made headlines in 2023, had a far different opinion on the game and game preservation in general.
VDazzle said, Thor, what's your thoughts on video game preservation and the fact the game industry doesn't want to really do it? Ubisoft.
Game preservation, I think, is very important. It's incredibly important. There is no greater loss than seeing stuff like that disappear. We have a history as developers, and that history is falling away. I think that it is deeply important that we catalog and preserve games. Now, I'll give you a good example of why this is deeply important to me, is not showing games to the next generation means that that media is permanently lost. Permanently lost. And that's a big issue for me. It shocks me that it's even a thing that some of these can disappear, frankly. It shocks me entirely. Every 10 years, media gone, dude. Maybe even 5 years sometimes. It moves really quickly. We have to preserve this shit. We have to. And it's a big deal to me, so...
Thor was now stating that game preservation for games with online components doesn't make sense. Thor expresses that he understands the initiative will be refined, if not through organizers and then the government that will likely attempt to find a happy medium between the consumers and companies. Even so, he is still entirely against it. Thor, in a pinned comment in this video, leaves an FAQ answering 7 questions. Here is a breakdown of 5 of them. Point 1 addresses the clear solution of allowing players to run their own servers, which Thor counters by creating the absurd scenario of users actively destroying a game for the game to become dead, and to then force a developer to kill their own game, which leaves the game in the hands of the people that destroyed it. Point 3 addresses Thor's lack of assistance to the cause, which he counters by stating he assisted when he said games should make it clear when they are licensed. Point 4 addresses the accusations that he banned Ross from his channel. He claims he did not. However, Thor does state he banned over 1,000 people in the last 3 days alone for hate speech, doxing attempts, and the spreading of insane false information about him. Point 5 makes it clear that Thor has had a 20-year career in the gaming industry spanning from QA, engineering, IT, and red team. And then on point 7, Thor doubles down on not speaking to Ross Scott. Thor, in his second video on the subject, the following day largely recycles these points and makes a few outlandish statements. One, in where he states he cannot comprehend the desire to preserve dead games.
It's a multiplayer game, you need a bunch of people. How many of you have felt negatively when an MMO dies? Or when a live service game dies? Oh, dead game. There's only 5 people online, why would I play that? So why would you want to preserve a game in that state? That doesn't make any sense to me. You want to take down these live service games, put them up on a private server, and then play it with a couple of people. You're not bringing it back at its height. You're not taking a snapshot of what the game actually is. You're making it limp on in a way that doesn't make any sense. That's not preservation.
There are hundreds, if not thousands, of these small communities playing obscure decade-old games. Thor's claims are becoming more and more baseless, and he is losing his authority.
I should be able to be talking about this. In fact, I should be talking about this. I am a content creator specifically that is a game developer that has worked in this industry for 20 years. This is my wheelhouse. I'm going to be gone for the next 4 days, so if you expect me to respond or anything like that and you think I'm ducking the issue or hiding in some way, I'm not. I'm just in Vegas because there's DEF CON going on, which is a hacking convention, and it's the first vacation I've had in 5 years. I can't wait to see my friends out there.
This initiative and its complexities beyond the simple message meant that Thor made it through mostly unscathed. Even his friends were coming out in support of him and against the malicious comments Thor was claiming he was receiving. On August 10th, Ross Scott uploaded his own FAQ in video form, clarifying that Stop Killing Games is not retroactive, it won't affect current games, only new ones, and that can be made from the ground up, with the knowledge that one day they will have to operate in some form offline. To that, games only have to be reasonably playable. This video received a little over 100,000 views. This is only a fraction of what Thor's videos against the initiative received. Thor had the upper hand, but through this had unwittingly attracted a small group of detractors. Where Thor was getting hundreds of millions of views, these videos were often failing to break even 1,000. Modern day creators have learned ignoring drama tends to kill it. Thor attempted to both ignore the drama and, behind the scenes, kill it.
500 bits said subscribed after the SKG video. While I don't agree with all your
Neat.
Peasmella 420 with 1000 bits said hi Thor.
Beyond silencing donations, Thor also erased his VODs involving discussion about stop killing games.
Their initiative for that, and there were a number of posts in there that were people saying we should keep baiting him and attacking him, because if we do that, he'll keep talking about it, then more people will sign the initiative. They were planning that shit. And those threads are still there. They're still up. People are still talking about that shit on there. So instead of that, I just deleted all the VODs where we were talking about it. I kept my videos up and I walked away. They can eat shit.
While Thor could exercise some control over conversation through lack of dialogue on his side, there was little he could do for these videos exploring his past as Maldavia's victory. Mysteriously, one by one, these disappeared. Someone, or some group, had been reporting these to YouTube, and though their contents are not any worse than any typical expose video, they were all getting removed by YouTube for harassment and doxing. One creator, known as Dr. Copper, states that they confirmed with YouTube staff that Thor personally reported the channel. This creator also states that Thor had been doing this to other expose videos. The most prominent video, that unlike the others did get some traction at 98,000 views, was also removed while it sat at only 59% likes. These were already massively disliked videos, but Thor was still allegedly taking them down. What's more, Thor in his Discord addressed some of the claims found in this other video, which explores the Second Life trauma involving Wingless Moto and Thor visiting her when she was a minor, stating that the claims of sexual activity were untrue and that the outlets that reported on him in Second Life were tabloids that made extreme and idiotic statements. Thor also posted the conversation he had with his creator, letting his Discord following know who was responsible. The author of this video also states Thor took down his video. In the midst of this, Thor tweeted, quote, "I moved and have been commuting 3 hours a day to stream for months now. It's why all my dev work slowed down. I just gained 18 hours a week back." Unquote. This was his new excuse for the lack of progress in Heartbound. The game only received a single update in 2024, if it can be even labeled as such, because this was an April Fool's update. Not a real April Fool's update, as that would require dev work, but instead a list of joke patch notes that are known to be hated across the industry. This means, for the entirety of this year, there were no additions to Heartbound. On the website QE Farms, this user set out to answer one burning question. Quote, "How much does Thor actually work on Heartbound when streaming?" Thor had 13 streams this past month, totaling 164 hours of raw VODs, the shortest being 8.5 hours, with the longest being a full 24-hour stream. Of course, not all of them were spent working on Heartbound. That's expected. But how would you guess? How much? How little? Did he work most of the streams, or did he only muster single-digit hours? In 164 hours of video, and after spending 6 to 7 hours over 2 nights reviewing it, that I can never get back, I found that Thor spent 163 hours and 45 minutes not working on Heartbound, with only 15 minutes of actual quote-unquote attempts to work on it. This feels like a case of Yandere Dev 2.0, maybe even worse. I checked as thoroughly as I could. Thor genuinely only tried working on Heartbound for 15 minutes. Those 15 minutes weren't even coding, just fucking around trying to get his game editor to work and answering his super chats. To say the least, that is not productive work. Not even getting into the editor or even explaining to his viewers what he even wanted to do. I only gave him those 15 minutes due to attempting to get your programs to work as quote-unquote billable hours. Not really work, but a technicality. Unquote. In September on Twitter, Thor was celebrating his growth, stating he now has a team of 16 people working under him, either employees with benefits or contractors receiving that of equivalent pay. The coming months will not be as kind to him as the last year was. This same month, Fearful Tears would release his first video ever, and it just so happened to be on Thor. While the previous videos on Thor took on a more aggressive or mocking theme, this video let the evidence largely speak for itself. The first half covers some of the history involving the lengthy delays of Heartbound, and the second half brought forward a new criticism.
While I was writing this video, front loading my head, and then one day I got a new YouTube recommended called Mr. Robot. And just seeing the thumbnail, I was like, he's talking about it again.
Mr. Robot is a highly regarded show centered on a computer programmer and vigilante hacker.
All right, so the reason I don't like Mr. Robot. This right here is my write-up for the DEF CON 22 badge challenge. Went viral as hell inside of the hacking community. And it was because I listed out everything that we did as a team and showed the world the brilliance of Lost. And now let's go to Mr. Robot's Twitter. Understand that this was the only place in the world that this was listed. Mr. Robot reposted this right here. That's that same string, but what did they leave off the end? His signature. This is the same as taking an artist and removing their signature from their piece of art. They made it public to millions of Mr. Robot fans. And those people went and found all of the breadcrumbs that led after this, which led to Lost's personal phone number. He got tens of thousands of calls from fans of Mr. Robot thinking Mr. Robot was running an ARG, and I stopped watching the show as a result.
Thor, in 2016, tweeted 3 times under his Potato Sec account at Mr. Robot. What Fearful Tears proved is that nearly every one of Thor's claims in that video were false. To start, this cipher could be found on the DEF CON pamphlet, which can be found on DEF CON's official website. Thor lied about him being the only one to host this information. Being this was DEF CON 2022 in 2014, Thor did not even win this challenge. It was a different team. Furthermore, Lost, the creator of the challenge, appreciated the challenge being included in the show, even going as far as to thank one of the writers. By 2019, according to this write-up regarding his appearance on a panel, Lost had become a consultant for Mr. Robot. Thor was also indignant about the cipher because the solution is Lost's phone number, even though it was designed to be discovered, and Thor, in his own write-up, posted the number while the Mr. Robot Twitter only posted the cipher for it. There is hypocrisy here, but to fully grasp it, one needs the context of DEF CON, Mr. Robot, the puzzle creator Lost, and Thor's involvement in DEF CON. The same goes for understanding the significance in Thor not completing Animus, his excuses, his promises, and why Heartbound is the foundation of it all, and why its stagnated development is representative of Thor in more ways than one. Thor is shielded by his ability to hide behind complexity, to claim to be the one seeing a truer reality. It is the reason he received over 1 billion views in 2024 after all. That's why his fatal mistake was entering a level playing field of knowledge. His fatal mistake, of all things, was playing World of Warcraft. In 2023, Blizzard released classic hardcore servers based on the earlier versions of World of Warcraft, with the added twist that players get a single life. Death means starting an entirely new character. Though this is not a new game mechanic, as roguelikes are based upon this mechanic, World of Warcraft is an MMO where players sink hundreds of hours into a single character to get a max level of 60 and obtain items from dungeons that greatly boost character attributes. It is a social game that requires different classes of characters meant to deal damage, take damage, and heal players. Even with all the necessary classes present, mistakes are all too common.
I might be dead here, boys.
Petri, Sorako, Petri!
I did. I Petri. Petri.
Wait, I'm being popped.
No! Petri and leave.
Come on, man! Oh my god.
This death took place in Dire Maul, one of the endgame dungeons that necessitates players sink hundreds of hours to get into. The reason it happened is because one of the players walked too close to a group of enemies.
Yeah, he didn't do it on purpose. I get it. It was just a fuck up. Unlucky. Damn. I'll be honest, I am surprised that this is in range to pull. But yeah, you gotta hug that left wall there.
Streamer Sodapoppin, in revising the footage, found that a mage was not hugging a left wall, meaning that the raid group had too many enemies to deal with. This is one of the more common ways for a raid party to lose control and for players to die. Sodapoppin, as he had built his career on World of Warcraft, was not just an authority figure in classic hardcore, he was leader of the guild Only Fangs. This is a group that includes creators of various size that understand from the outset that the guild is meant to provide entertainment. Whenever a creator makes a severe mistake, they must contend with a punishment, or at worst, be G-kicked, meaning kicked from the guild.
Number 1, XQC is to roleplay walk through Stormwind, and then when he gets to Dowski, he must type a heartfelt apology. If he types anything like, "I would do it again," or anything like that, he will not be re-invited to the guild. It has to be an apology. It's all he has to do. It's so easy. It's an ego trim, and we're gonna do it.
Dowski, my lord, my precious. I have failed you and all of the guild with my abhorrent behavior.
This was in 2023. A year later, in November, Only Fangs Season 2 was set on fresh servers, where the entire player base starts at level 1. In virtually every way, this newer season was more expansive than the first. It had hundreds of creators joining. It divided the creators based on their in-game races, which also dictates their class. This also worked to have pseudo-sub guilds, which created even further competition. Sodapoppin, for the majority of guild members, did not allow them to choose their classes, as it would make the challenge too easy for experienced players. And he even refined the punishments. Because the different races relied on a point system, and deaths would remove points, punishments could help reduce the loss of points. Thor was part of the season of OnlyFangs, and jumped in the moment the servers opened.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, is it working for you?
Horde, troll, mage. Yeah, my character's getting in.
Why is it working for you?
Because I'm cool.
Creators, whether new or experienced, knew that this was a celebration of Warcraft. Creator Miskiff recreated the basement of the famous South Park episode Make Love, Not Warcraft. Thor's relationship to this episode via his father was well known. This is why he was looked upon as one of the guild's experienced members. He worked at Blizzard. He is a game developer. Having him in your party is a sure sign of victory. What's more, Thor built a Frost Mage, one that specializes in ice spells meant to slow enemies in the event that too many enemies are pulled. In theory, Frost Mages are a boon. In practice, the fear of losing one's character can overpower the desire of fully assisting the escape of party members.
Oh, we pulled.
Oh, what the fuck?
Big
Holy
pull.
shit.
We probably need to run, guys. Probably need to run.
Holy shit.
Yep, this is exactly
Holy
what I
shit.
was worried about.
Holy shit.
I dummy, just run out.
I'm fucking
No way. Oh my god, I'm dead too.
Moon, the streamer and Frost Mage in that clip, was criticized for not doing enough to save his party members. Sodapoppin, in reviewing the clip, gave leeway to Moon, citing the party's collective mistakes and that Moon did make a few attempts to send out spells, but overall was operating at his level of experience.
I'm not gonna blame the mages, man. Like, you can't expect these mages to save you out of these situations in our guild. They're not Zico. They're not Zaryu. They're scared. I think you should be more preventative rather than just like, we really f***ed up. I hope our mages can carry us out of here.
Thor, in his breakdown of this, was far less generous.
We've lost a lot of tanks, man. Like, I've watched it. Like, Jay Beezy died the other day. That was rough.
That was sad. As a mage player, that was sad to watch from two mages in a group. I'm gonna be
It,
honest.
it made me physically unwell. Yeah.
Yeah. It made me feel like I was a decent mage player, knowing that I probably would have done a lot more.
Like, there were no sheeps going out. There were no blizzards going out. Apparently, he didn't have the spec for blizzard for slows, but, like, that's exactly why I run that spec. Because, like, when shit goes sideways, you save lives, man.
Thor, on his streams, was both speaking to his ability and the necessity to be humble, to admit fault even when not fully at fault.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. Let me explain something to you, young guys. If she says that it's your fault that she died in the video game, it's your fault that she died in the video game. Even if it's not your fault that she died in the video game, it is your fault that she died in the video game. This has been a public service announcement for you. You say, hell no, but it's true. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because that hill is too stupid to die on.
It is now January 12th. Thor has joined a raiding group to take on Dire Maul. Early into this raid, issues arise and too many enemies are pulled.
Everything is
He's coming, just...
Oh, we got another one? Oh, fuck, just run out. Everyone, run down, jump down. I'm putting down target dummy, let's just run out of here.
Oh my god.
Thor, instead of walking alongside his party to deploy spells meant to slow enemies and save his party members, has instead turned tail.
Are you guys fine? Are you guys fine?
I have a dummy.
Put down another dummy. Up
Can you
ahead.
dummy again? Snip.
I have a dummy. I have no more dummies.
I have one.
Oh, fuck.
Dummy now?
Nice, dummy. We're coming to you.
Even without the assistance of Thor, the party managed to recover and the raid continued, only for trouble to arise once more.
Boss is coming too, watch out.
Yeah, well, I got shield wall. God
Run,
damn
run,
it.
run,
Just run. Can you target dummy?
I can target dummy, yeah. Should I do it?
Just kill the master, yeah, target dummy.
The boss, which should in most cases be avoided in this section of the raid, is now targeting the group. Thor's time to act is now. At the start of the chaos, Thor has 1808 mana. Thor also has a plugin meant to display his health at 1 to troll his viewers. As the party makes their escape, Thor uses the spell Blink. This is 400 mana gone to teleport forward. Thor then briefly turns around to cast a spell.
Aussie, are you fine? Any grenades,
I got last
anything.
stand.
Thor makes several mistakes in this short time. He does not use Rank 1 Blizzard. Instead, he uses Max Rank Blizzard, which is meant to be used more for the sake of damage. This mistake severely drains his mana, and he moves the moment he casts it. Moving interrupts the spell, yet also expends its full cost of mana. In fairness to Thor, the enemy ahead of the pack is a boss and is immune to being slowed. Yet that much is not true for the lesser enemies that also pose a serious danger and through Blizzard could be separated from the boss.
Heal him. Yeah, you just heal me. Just come back a little bit.
What's on me? Sitting bear form.
Snuppy, just run.
I can help a lot. Yep.
Pirate, why are you walking, bro?
Thor has made the decision to run, and though the callout was made to run, party members are reasonably expected to aid each other's escape, especially Thor, who previously touted his ability to do so.
What are you talking about? Why am I walking?
This
Look at
is
my mana.
savageable. Come on,
Innovate
man.
While Thor plainly states he is out of mana, in his hotbar, Thor has access to Mana Ruby and Robes of the Archmage. These are two mana restoring items that he does not use.
Just kill the mastiffs.
Innovate.
Innovate the healer. Kill the mastiffs. We got this. In the sense of.
War something.
Do you see my mana? What am I supposed to do for you?
Just kill the mastiffs. One shot. Okay, we
more. There's
more
more on the way. More on the way.
Thor's cursor in that moment can be seen making a beeline towards his Mana Ruby, yet he does not click it. Regardless, he still has enough mana present for certain spells, including Rank 1 Blizzard, a spell that in a different stream he called attention to.
Can you see my talents? Sure, man. So I've got 35 points in Frost. This is going to give me Elemental Precision and improved Frostbolts, so faster Frostbolts that hit better. All of this is just damage related except for improved Blizzard. This is going to allow me to basically save parties in dungeons. That's the real big deal for that. Improved Blizzard is just very powerful because you can cast a rank 1 Blizzard. It costs only 272 mana.
Thor, instead of casting that spell, casts two others.
The mastiffs can be Ice Novas.
Dead, I'm dead.
Now we're going to wait.
Nusara?
No.
Oh.
Okay, get out.
Run.
Evocation's on cooldown, man.
While a raid member expresses that an enemy type is susceptible to Ice Nova, Thor uses Ice Barrier, a protective spell on himself, and then also uses Blink to make his escape.
I can taunt last.
How much mana is Ice Nova? There's no way that much mana.
You have a boss in you called Run.
This failure, spread among its members, got 2 players killed. Unlike Moon or many others whose failures were displayed, Thor showed no remorse.
I ran, and I was out of mana. I don't know what the hell they were expecting, dude. That does not make any sense. No. They overpulled 2 polls and the boss.
After the events, streamer Tyler1 speaks directly to Thor.
Yo, what up?
Yo, what's up, bro? Big drama
Yo.
today, Pirate. I'm hearing big drama,
know,
big
dude.
things. I don't really play Mage, but from what I've gathered with everything, I think there was a world where you do more to help, but at the end of the day, it was a terrible poll. Call was made to run. Your hours are on the line. I don't know if you know these people too well, but you don't want to lose your character more than anybody else's. That's my understanding. Is that?
Yeah. No.
You didn't want to die. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Nobody wants to die, right? Like this is hardcore world level 60, right? And of course I didn't want to die. And what I saw from that situation was there may be something more I can do here, but the risk is too high right now.
About 6 minutes into the call, Yamato, a member of Thor's field reading party, jumps in.
What, Yamato? What do you want, man?
Let me say it again.
He already said his piece.
Pirate.
Go on.
Yeah, I want to speak to him because I didn't speak to him correctly. I said it again. We all did mistakes, bro. Like I didn't say, we are just blaming you. It's about the zero accountability is what makes us so mad, Pirate.
There's no
You
zero
see the
accountability, dude. Everyone can do something
No,
better. But when you open up
No,
and you
you-
yell over
no,
another
listen,
person
can
like
I
you were doing
speak?
earlier, nah, I'm good. See ya. I'm not doing that shit again with him. Nah, he did it the first time. I'm not doing it a second one.
Thor left the call, leaving Yamato to vent on Tyler1's stream.
That's the issue. This guy's egoistical as
okay, look.
Insane amounts of ego this guy has.
Soda Poppin was among the many to review the footage of Thor abandoning his teammates. The derisive term of this is roaching out, as a cockroach, just as a bad teammate, would escape at the first signs of danger.
Did not use his toolkit, did not use his mage properly whatsoever. I think I could name 5 mages 60 right now. Lucari, no one dies there, believe it or not.
You overpulled and you weren't paying attention to where the boss was. That's not on me.
Ooh.
I saw about
just take some blame, god damn it.
The
Just
boss
a,
coming.
just a bit.
I don't know if we could
It's
like
okay.
move back.
Not a big
Faster
deal.
blood.
This is kind of roachy. It's probably the most roachy thing I've ever seen.
Soda, as well as the wider Twitch user base, was experiencing the downfall of Thor and his reputation.
The craziest thing is that Pirate
I haven't heard
is
this.
supposed to be this voice of a person who's played WoW a really long time, who knows everything, and when it comes down to it, he panicked like a roach and did nothing for his group. Disgusting. And then he doesn't go back on it. He acts like it's the right decision. That dude. Holy ego. At least accept that you did the wrong thing and you killed your friends.
This dude is a complete fraud. At least in the WoW space, I don't care if he worked for Blizzard. The guy probably made coffee for some devs. I don't even believe for a second he coded anything in this game. I don't dude. Nothing at all. All right, bro. Guy probably was interning there for a week. I'm not gonna believe a.
Were people under the impression that he's like some WoW like crazy good player? I was not under this impression. Were others under this impression? That's how he marketed himself. Customers, I don't know. He said so himself. I would have just disagreed. If I just looked at his screen and saw rank 1 Blizzard isn't keybound.
Side note, Jokered, the creator Soda Poppin just reacted to, will later this month have his video on Pirate Software taken down for harassment and bullying. As it stood, Thor was losing credibility. He was not taking accountability for his personal failures or accountability for his excuses in a theater comprised of the greater Twitch community. Anyone that has played World of Warcraft knew that Thor had failed. Even those that were new to the game also knew Thor failed.
That's crazy to me. If you can't look back at this and be like, yeah, I could have absolutely done a lot.
I'm one of the primary guild enchanters.
Whatever. He is one of the guild's primary enchanters. However, we have like 10 primary guild enchanters, and one could argue that we have too many still.
Soda's review was summarized in this Reddit post. A commenter also summarizes Thor's absurd and compounding excuses. Quote, I did no wrong, and if I did, it was unsalvageable. And if it wasn't, I had no mana. And if I had mana, I was too far away. And if I wasn't too far away, I blinked further. And if I could have helped, I can't risk it because I am the guild enchanter. Unquote. Thor was not budging. Even worse, he believed that it would all go away.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, to be real with you, I've seen shit like this before. I generally feel like the internet has like a 72-hour health bar where they get really pissed about something that has nothing to do with them, and then they find something else to get really pissed about that has nothing to do with them. And like, mods are cleaning it up, rest of the community's in good spirits.
Thor on Twitter on the 13th released his statement. This did not include an apology. The most he spoke on his failures was this section. Quote, each person in this group made mistakes, including myself. I have never once said I was perfect in my play, nor that I was a god gamer. I'm just an ex-Blizzard employee that has played Mage for a long time. Unquote. If anything, this statement made readers even angrier as Thor stated that this would all just go away. Quote, to those trying to defend me, don't worry about it. This too shall pass. The internet hate machine will not defeat me or the community that supports me. See you in WoW Hardcore tomorrow. Unquote. Thor, receiving large-scale harassment, attempted to ban his way through it.
It was 2,975 bans and 1,357 bans on process.
On day 2 of the scandal, Thor continued to show no remorse.
The call was made to run. I ran, and I ran further than other people wanted to, and then the call was made to not run. So I didn't run back in. And there was, at that point, it felt like there was no reason to run back in. At that point, I didn't really want to, and that's it. And a lot of it was from a rogue that was bitching the entire time about every goddamn thing that was going on except for his own play. But the mage is the one at fault because the mage is the hero class and the mage has to do everything perfectly. Everyone in that played badly. We've been taking all of this. We've been documenting all of the content creators that are egging it on. Like, all of that shit is documented and reported. And that's it. Hope it was worth it.
Thor was broadly venting his frustration towards other creators in the guild. What he fails to mention is he was also hypercritical of some members like Moon Moon.
You know, look, as a smaller streamer myself, can you imagine the vitriol and hate I had to put up with in my Twitch chat after a much bigger creator on Twitch said that it made him physically ill to watch my gameplay. It was terrible. Basic stuff.
Thor had a history of putting more than just Moon down. Even those new to the game, such as Philomage's Lakari, were not safe from Thor's lambasting.
You basically have to evocate to get your mana back for the next pull. Ugh.
Reminded me, I sorry, I don't play the game, so I forget. If you remind me, I can help you out real quick.
Yeah, it's too bad I'm the only mage in the party. You're right, Jen. If only someone else would cast Arcane. If only.
Can't really keep wishing for things that just aren't here, though.
That's true. That's true. Can't wish for the rogue. Can't wish for another mage to cast Arcane in.
Yeah.
Brother, may I have some oats? Oh, since we have 2 mages, we could probably poly the ads.
Wait, we have 2 mages. Oh, man.
Yeah, I can poly.
Here I've been the only one casting Arcane in. Incredible.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's wild, right?
Because he has like this high and mighty attitude, like he's better than you when he's not. You remember he's like talking down to me in that dungeon in SM? You remember that? You guys remember that shit? Why do you play mage when you don't like support the team and make water and buff people? Bitch, I'm new. I fucking didn't realize the buff ran out, pussy. And then fucking fast forward 2 months later, this nigga doesn't even know how to press Frost Nova. Fuck yourself, bitch. I'm gonna talk my shit. Fuck him, dude. I still remember that shit when he was talking that shit. Acting like he can play mage better than me when he's dog shit at the game. Shit's crazy, bro. You kidding me? Fuck that guy. That's why people don't like him, because he has a high and mighty attitude. He has like the ego, but it's like an unjustified ego.
Thor, now turning even the guild against him, continued to deliver his unwanted perspectives.
And for all the content creators that were out there trying to cannibalize me to boost their numbers for a little while, that may work for now. But in the future, no one's going to want to do anything with you other than other people that also want to cannibalize you. You're going to surround yourself with assholes. That's going to be on you, bud. That's shitty for you.
The guild was against Thor.
It's probably better for both of us to split ways, so I sent him a message. Told him I was going to G-kick him. And I maybe like an hour, maybe 2 passed. I don't know exactly. And then did it.
See, I'm the one that made the call. I actually am the one who linked Soda. I literally was like, we gotta talk to this guy. Like, I don't know what the fuck's going on with him, but he can't be acting like this. And then Chance is like, yo, we'll just get rid of him. I was like, okay.
Silence!
Everyone, yes, I made the decision to G-kick Pirate. I felt a large majority of people in the guild felt uncomfortable playing or being around him and all that drama that surrounded him at this point. Even though some people may have not felt that way, a lot of us did. And after seeing some clips today from him quadrupling down, or I don't know what number we're on at this point, I think I'm making the right decision, but it's still, I feel bad. Try to just let this whole thing slide into forgetfulness and move on IMO. Stay safe, gamers.
On day 3 of the scandal, Thor released another statement of sizable length, summarizing the events under his perspective. This also did not include an apology. Thor on his Twitch channel set the time limit of clips to 5 seconds to make it harder for users to clip his channel. Also to this, Thor announced he was moving on from Warcraft.
Anyway, I'm gonna be real with you guys. I won't be playing hardcore WoW on stream again. I don't give a shit about any of this stuff anymore. If you came here to like talk about it, or you want to do the thing, you think it's part of a soap opera or a bit. It's not part of a bit. I'm not gonna play, and I'm just gonna go do other stuff, and that's it. Yeah, I'm not gonna make my own guild. I'm not gonna do any of that shit. I'm out. Yeah, not interested.
Thor's prediction that the internet would move on was not coming to fruition. Even as he tried to limit his clips, as he moved on from the game, conversation about him only increased.
I watched his Animal Well playthrough. Okay, I watched the whole thing, but it was on second monitor. And I liked the video. And I remember thinking in the video, I was like, damn, he's fucking good at puzzles, man. I was like, if I was doing this, I'd be fucking stuck. That's what I remember thinking. Okay? And then during this drama, I'm like reading some of the comments on this WoW drama, and somebody offhandedly mentioned that he faked it. That he like looked up a guide. That he like fucking was clearly like he says things that happen before he gets there.
Quote, piggybacking on this to say I'm pretty sure it's my comment that Atriox saw, which is kinda crazy cause I didn't expect it to end up in a front page clip like this. I gotta say, it's pretty vindicating seeing people realize how bullshit he is. I do hope someone with more time can make a compilation of how he solves some of those Animal Well puzzles, as long as the VODs are available, lol. Because it's legit ridiculous, and super obvious especially towards the end of the game. One I remember is a specific puzzle that is impossible to solve it by yourself. It's designed to be solved by the entire community altogether, all with 50 different pieces of it. Pirate said he quote-unquote solved it off stream and it quote-unquote took 3 hours. He did not acknowledge the 50 people thing, but he made it seem like he put all those pieces of the puzzle together himself and it was super hard, when he clearly just drew the solution that other people had found, and if anything it proves that he looked something up. Unquote.
I've returned. I solved the puzzle off stream. I know. Horrible, isn't it? A singular puzzle. But the reason why is because it required 50 players to do it together. And there was no way that I was going to do that on stream. Because it took an enormous amount of time to draw an entire thing on a mural. It took me 3 hours to do it. And it required me to do a lot of research to find out what it was supposed to be.
Even though Animal Well is a puzzle game with hints meant to deliver the puzzles, Thor reaches the answers without any of the necessary hints to get those answers.
Like, he will be stuck somewhere, look at his phone, and then like 5 minutes later he'll be like, guys, wait a minute. He has a very specific way of doing it, like, wait a minute.
Oh, come on. Wait a minute. Wait. Oh. Truth egg. We found the truth.
Thor left a comment under his cut-down long play of Animal Well in response to the cheating allegations. And here he states that he played a significant amount of time off stream, and chiefly states he played the game quote-unquote cooperatively with chat. Thor in his long play contradicts this comment.
The 5-code lock is super brute forcible. In this house, we solve puzzles. And we don't look up the answers. Because where the hell's the fun in that, bud? Yeah, people have no idea how to play puzzle games these days. I agree with that. I don't understand the idea of looking up the answers to puzzle games. And you need to not do that. Like, you are robbing yourself of the entire point of the game. At that point, you might as well play an idle game, because you're not doing anything.
Many viewers now took note of Thor stating,
Aha! Wait a minute. Alright. There's gotta be some way to do this.
Wingdings. This is a one Animal Well puzzle that is entirely unrealistic to solve alone. It is a bonus, multi-step puzzle meant for those seeking a true challenge. Completing steps of the puzzle delivers symbols, which turn out to be a map and the solution to the puzzle.
Is this a map?
Okay. No, wow. I actually hadn't seen this before. I didn't realize he just like got the map hunch here already. He has 3 lines and instantly got, oh, it's a map.
Streamer Albino emphasizes the absurdity of Thor getting to the right answer with the wrong equation.
The likelihood of someone solving the Wingdings puzzle, or not only finding the Wingdings, which is really hard, but also finding out how to like assemble them to get to the final stage of the puzzle, is insane.
Albino does a just over hour-long breakdown of Thor's playthrough, and where he highlights how Thor never obtained all the necessary pieces of the map, or even hints to get the map pieces, yet came to the correct answer out of happenstance.
I think I know why he skipped this one, because he didn't do it, right? Because this is one of the puzzle pieces that he skipped towards the end here, was like, oh, we're gonna fill in the blanks, right? And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to, hear me out, eat 100 of these red little fruits
into the final.
Yep, there's the code. When you eat 100 in a row without taking damage. I was like, nah, I'm not gonna skip that one.
Even though Thor conveniently skipped 2 of the Wingding map pieces that are particularly difficult to get, he still guesses what the completed map would look like.
This one seems pretty obvious. This one seems correct. I don't think there's any other way that could go. Right?
It can't be real, right? Wait a minute. I can't stress this enough. These puzzles have almost no connection. He does them all back to back, figures them out immediately, before he's done with the Wingdings. He somehow picks the random poster in the background, and even before that, he figures that, even before he has that, he figures out it's a map. It's a map because there's lines in them. Oh, it's a map, it has to be.
Albino also looked into Thor's playthrough of Outer Wilds, where he came to the conclusion that Thor was cheating. This marks 3 games where Thor's credibility has been challenged, and there was about to be a 4th.
Sabu got left behind? Sabu is not paying attention. Sabu. God damn it, guys.
Oh, no. Who pulled the ocular?
So one of you pulled the ocular. Why? Now half the raid is dead. Was there a reason for that?
Thor was playing MMO Ashes of Creation, something that he had been playing since 2024. In that raid, a player tagged an ocular, a very dangerous enemy, and Thor was set on figuring out who did it.
God damn it. Oh, I swear to God, I'm gonna go back in the video and find out who pulled that damn thing and kick him out of the raid. That is insane shit. You have to be better than that.
What do you mean it's Kronos?
It's not Kronos. Somebody tab targeted and hit those damn ads. One of you attacked an Oculus and just wiped the whole party. For no reason. This is basic shit. We are not pulling those Oculuses because they kill the raid. We're pulling only the humanoids that are dropping the actual gear. Basic. I've been talking about this the whole time. If you want to run endgame content, you cannot do this. Legitimately. Because you're wasting everybody's time by doing that. So stop it. There's no reason for that. When I say the whole group is moving forward, that means you are not pulling shit from behind us. This is very, very basic. I'm not even being a dick about this. You just wiped everyone in the party and we lost tons of loot and stuff for everybody involved. It's not necessary. Thor pulled it in a clip? Link. I call bullshit. Because I was running at the time.
Thor, in realizing that he pulled the ocular, was now having to eat all of his condescending remarks. But he does not take any of the blame.
No. Absolutely not. No, that's not at fault. No, when you split the party and you pull the wrong pack, no. If you actually watch that clip, you'll see that I'm trying to tell them, like, what are you doing? Why are you pulling back there? Yeah, no. Absolutely not.
Thor would later take blame for his failure, but admit how he initially shifted the blame onto others, even after finding out he was the one at fault.
As much as all you guys have come over from livestream fell and are asking about the Oculus, I pulled the Oculus. We figured that out. I was mad at that clip because we had lost a shitload of extra time. I thought somebody else in the party pulled it, and it turned out to be me. Shit happens, man. It ain't that deep.
Thor was being challenged like never before. Every one of his credentials, whether it be his DEF CON black badges, his time at Blizzard, and even his ability as a developer was being scrutinized. It did not help that it had been over a year since Heartbound received an update, that Heartbound had been in early access for 9 years, and that Animus had now been delayed for 5 years. Thor, in response, stated he was going to provide monthly updates.
This new monthly update process probably is going to fix that sort of, like, narrative on that, because it's not correct. Yeah. That'll fix a lot of stuff, I think. So we're just going to release a new update every month. And there is going to be a bunch of broken shit in the updates, because it's not a complete build.
With millions watching, Thor would now need to adhere to his promises. Missing or delaying even a single update now could be met with extreme scrutiny.
When do you plan to finish development? My hope is to finish it as quickly as possible. To be honest with you, with the monthly builds now coming up, I have a restriction on me where I have to produce content for you every month, and I can't just keep pushing it off because I'm busy with everything else that it takes to run a business. This forces my hand to make sure that I have to stay accountable to you guys and release new content for the game. That's going to make it easier for me to do this, and now that Shay is actually less busy as well, it's going to be easier for Shay to build this kind of stuff too, because she has a day job. Shay actually goes and is a exotic vet assistant at an exotic veterinary, and that helps a shitload for, like, running the animal rescue, running the ferret rescue. So Shay was super busy with art. I was too busy to do art, rather. Shay was too busy to do art stuff. I was too busy to do programming stuff, and now we're not. The machine is in place. We can go build. Bro, complete your game first. What do you think is on screen, you goblin ass? Jesus Christ. Complete your game, streamer. Literally showing game on stream and talking about how we're making it. Like, damn. You don't even know what you're mad about anymore. I guess it is 9 years. Jesus Christ.
On the 19th, only a week after his infamous failure at Dire Mall, Thor delivered his January update on Heartbound, which was not an actual patch. Instead, Thor, to a much wider audience, states Animus is almost complete.
How done is Animus? Animus is very, very close to being finished. So let me go pop this up for you. But the only thing that needs to be done for Animus to be finished is this. The rest of this is actually a section of Animus that happens after Animus is finished.
Sooner than Thor's next Heartbound update was an update on a different game. On the 20th, a Redditor posted a video alongside the title, "He put pirate software drama in his indie game."
As much as you're angry right now, of course I ran.
This is footage of indie game Idle Streamer Bonanza, a game that was at the time in development meant to cruelly satirize controversial streamers in their most infamous moments. As a Redditor pointed out, it was the developer who made the Reddit post and titled it in the third person as to attempt to deceive the audience that this was a random user bringing attention to this game. Onlookers were not in favor of this developer's practices and were already against him, until Thor stepped in.
Hey, Kronos, we have to file a legal complaint against that dude earlier. I'm gonna pause this for a moment. There was a dude earlier today that went onto Reddit and said that he was using my voice in a video game, showed a bunch of videos of it, and then put that game up on Steam. A lot of people in the thread told him not to do that, that would end up being a legal problem for him. He did it anyway. So I filed a DMCA claim, and he has now filed a counterclaim against me. We're going to take you to court. You're going to lose. You cannot use somebody's likeness or voice in any way inside of your games without their permission. It's a really stupid thing to do. Incredibly so. So I'm going to send this over to Kronos now because he is a lawyer in copyright law. That is his job. Welcome to the Finding Out timeline, bud. He put it up on Steam and showed that my voice was going to be in it. And that's it. I think voice is copyrightable. That's where you're wrong. And that's where a copyright lawyer would know more than you, which is Kronos. Yeah, unfortunate.
Thor on Twitter would double down on his stances. This was indeed unfortunate, but not for the reasons Thor lists. Voice use is an issue of likeness and not copyright. And Kronos, his top mod, was not a lawyer that was familiar with US copyright law. He was not even a lawyer based in the US where the developer was based. He was a lawyer in the UK. This was all expressed in 2 interviews conducted by creator Chud Logic, and where he interviews the developer and the lawyer working pro bono to represent him.
I was on the assumption that Kronos was an actual lawyer here in the States. He's not. He's a lawyer in the UK.
Which he did. He put him in a build that my client had internally, but he didn't publish it in a demo on Steam. Okay, nonetheless. This was a Monday, 2 Mondays ago. Not this past Monday, not the Monday before, but the Monday before that one.
February 5th was not a good day for Thor. Steam released an update that would bring attention to games possibly abandoned in early access. This could be found on Heartbound's Steam page, where it states the game had not been updated in 14 months. This same day, the developer of Idle Streamer Bonanza released lengthy chat logs between him and Kronos, where Kronos appears to be misleading in not only what could be done, but also not being forthcoming with their own credentials.
I was on the assumption that he was a lawyer here in the States. And if you're a lawyer in the States, you cannot give bad advice, or you need to give no advice, or just legal advice. You can't be like, you can't mislead me, even if I'm the opposition.
Thor was unsuccessful in his attempts to take this game down, as it released later in 2025 with the inclusion of Thor as seen in the Reddit post. Thor was suffering more than blows to his ego. It was February that his Twitch views halved, and his channel went from 100 million views a month to a third of that. This is mostly because everything was being resurfaced, whether it was small or large, from this year or from Second Life in 2009. The nepotism, Darksphere creations, his time at Blizzard, his DEFCON badges, Heartbound, the lack of updates to Heartbound, his lies about Mr. Robot, his voice randomly deepening, his opposition to Stop Killing Games, the videos he had allegedly removed through YouTube's report feature, and of course his blunder in World of Warcraft. And on February 20th, he responded, but only to a handful of criticisms and only with half-truths. Take for example his explanation on what happened in Ashes of Creation.
I accidentally pulled something with a spell called Ball Lightning, and you can see it kind of off in the back there. I thought somebody else in the group pulled this, and I was really pissed off, and I blamed the rest of the team. And the reason why I had done that is because earlier on in the fights, people just kept pulling random shit. And then I accidentally pulled random shit, and I looked like a dumbass because I was an angry dumbass. This was entirely my fault. And later on, when we reviewed the footage, we realized it was entirely my fault, and then I apologized to everyone involved. Later on, we ended the raid, and we moved on to other content.
Thor fails to mention how he shifted blame initially, and blamed other party members even after finding out that he was at fault. In this same video, he accidentally reveals he lied about his updates to Heartbound.
The indie game that I work on. People are currently review bombing this. They're very upset, and I can understand why in some of those cases. I haven't worked on the game for the last year. I could have communicated better this entire time, though. With that in mind, this led to the review bomb, but it didn't stop me from working on it. On February 1st, I released the first patch, just like I said I was going to. We put out the patch notes for it, I made another announcement on the Discord, and I plan to make the next patch on March 1st. In fact, I work on it all the time. I was even showing it off on stream earlier. This is part of the new environment that I'm putting together to be able to get this out to the rest of the public on March 1st. There's a lot of dialogue in here, and it's the end of a chapter, so there's a huge amount of stuff that I have to do.
The February 2025 Heartbound update was so desperately lacking that Thor added this to the changelog. Quote, # has been added to the Heartbound font. Unquote. Thor added a symbol. This makes up 1/5 of the change logs that also include, quote, a quit button has been added to the menu with an are you sure option, unquote. Thor also stated that he did not work on the game for the last year. It is not that he miscommunicated this, it is that he outright lied. In February 2024, he states he completed an environment in Animus in response to the accusation that he was not working on Heartbound. In May of 2024, he gloated to Dr. K how he was above the typical Kickstarter because he was constantly streaming himself developing Heartbound. In August 2024, he tweeted how he got 18 hours a week back to dedicate to dev work. In October 2024, he flat out stated that he had completed an entire side story for Animus. Thor lied in all these situations, just as he was lying in February about it being a miscommunication. Thor is a liar and was being treated like one. Quote, the constant attacks from people seeing insane shit like this had a significant impact.
That's why Easter eggs are cool.
Depends on if they're...
Have you played Animal Well?
No.
There's some insane secrets in that game you will never discover on your own, except if you're pirate software.
Go back to
in which case you will just figure it all out on your own.
We've lost 100,000 subs on YouTube. Twitch is down significantly.
Was Renato just completely winning the game alone?
He is the last man there, kind of
Wow.
like a mage blinking out of the dungeon. He will survive, but the rest of his team, not there.
YouTube views are down. Heartbound review bombed, so that's down. Overly, it's dramatically lower than it was before WoW Hardcore. Unquote. Thor, over the next couple of months, would continue to see a decline in every aspect of his career. More and more, his audience was being compromised, the viewers hate watching him.
I'm gonna report that one myself. Yeah, that guy's a fucking piece of shit. Who got reported? Want to wait to see how long it takes Twitch to ban this person permanently. Who got reported for what? We'll find out how long it takes for them to get banned permanently from Twitch. I'll let you know. What do they say? They said that Ghost died of So they're trying to mix the World of Warcraft drama shit and say that one of the ferrets that died at our rescue, because she died of a very rare cancer, died of being out of mana.
That last video regarding the comment about Thor's ferret got 14,000 upvotes on Reddit. The comments were not very sympathetic to Thor. There was, however, one person Thor could bring his issues forward to more neutrally evaluate them.
So for over 100 days now, these people did spam managem and you're out of resources and run away from your friends and all this kind of shit. And the thing that's crazy about that is, tying back into the ferret stuff, is when Ghost died, my YouTube got littered with comments saying Ghost died because she was out of mana.
Oh my
and
god.
That's the shit that I'm getting every day now.
This was Thor's lengthy conversation with Dr. K. Dr. K only having minor bits to the controversy surrounding Thor is reliant on Thor's framing of the events. To this, Thor does an unsatisfactory job. He does admit fault for some blunders involving his raid in World of Warcraft, but entirely omits the arduous fallout, which is the core of the issue. Dr. K picks up on this.
So I think that this is where things get like if you're open to talking about this, like I think it could be helpful. Because I think there's two things that can be true at the same time. One is that the amount of hate that you've received is not acceptable. That, I think, is true. Like, in this moment, I believe that to be true. Like, that's not okay. And the way that you are describing the story and the response that you got, there's a big gap there that I think does not... So even if it's unfair, it seems like there's something missing to evoke. So what I'm getting is that you struck a nerve. You really pissed a lot of people off. And running away in a hardcore wipe, like a hardcore raid that is wiping, I do not think is the nerve that you struck. Does that make sense?
No, it was the fact that I was smug on the way out.
This segment of the conversation captures the 3 hours of conversation. It is Dr. K using various approaches to have Thor's reality match up with his opposition, but there is such a powerful barrier Thor has placed that he cannot see through it or over it. He even admits as such.
The tricky thing about this is that you're not wrong. So I would agree with every single one of the statements that you've made. But I think that
it's a defense mechanism for that. 100%.
A defense mechanism meaning what?
No, it's a defense mechanism on my end. And the reason why I did that is because it's gone on too long. And it's gotten to that point where it's hard for me to have a response that is not an emotional response. Like we talked about this before, is like whenever I feel like I'm having an emotional response, I just stop and I walk away for a moment, come back to it. But with this, I'm getting back into that old habit of like, I need to deflect this. I need to diffuse this. This is kind of a wall in front of this. I don't even want to, and you just kind of put it up there and walk away from the scenario. And that's literally what that is, which is, here's my evidence, take it or leave it. I never said that I was. But you'll see there's a number of people that are in there that are getting like banned for this shit right now. Is like, they come in and they're like, did you know that he worked at Blizzard for 7 years? Like, yeah, that was my career. And I'm proud of that. So of course I'm going to talk about that because it gives context to talk about other things around the games industry, which is what we do on the stream.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes the things that I talk about in regards to those types of things is misconstrued as arrogance or boasting, when in reality I'm just trying to give context.
So that is the problem right there. So I want you to listen to this phrase.
Sure.
This gets misconstrued as arrogance, but in reality, it's this. Yeah. That is the most arrogant statement on the planet, bro. Like, tell me I'm wrong.
Okay. I don't see it that way, but all right.
Right? So, you don't see it that way. You're wrong.
No.
Right? I'm right. So you're thinking you have blind spots. You're wrong. Like, I'm objective and you're subjective.
No.
This is not the way it's perceived. This is really the way it is.
Thor has built himself up on his achievements. With viewers seriously or mockingly diminishing them, they strike at Thor's ego. So while his true downfall started in World of Warcraft, it has been propelled by his memification. Yet he has had very serious impact, particularly on Stop Killing Games that in late June was predicted to now fail.
Now, I said I'm approaching this like a time traveler because with the trajectory we're on, these are both going to fail. So I figure, why wait until they actually do to tell people? Both the petitions end in July. Okay, I really don't want to do this next part, but it's become a liability for the campaign for me not to. Our biggest critic by far is YouTuber and streamer Pirate Software, who goes by Thor. If your only exposure to Stop Killing Games has been this video, then you've been misinformed. This video is by someone who does not understand the campaign, has been trying to stop it, and has been making up what it is about. This video came out right as we were building momentum, then except for one boost in Germany, the signatures started drying up like clockwork.
Ross Scott's video dissects Thor's claims one by one and proves how much he misrepresented the campaign. From lying about what it was trying to do, to framing it beyond the worst way possible to denounce it. The worst part was that Thor's coverage, as far as Ross Scott can tell, truly had a negative reaction among supporters and possibly caused the predicted death of the campaign. But Ross Scott may have been too quick on this because, as he stated, there was still a month left to get signatures. And this was about to reveal something incredible. It was going to prove that people hate Thor more than they ever cared about Stop Killing Games. Naturally, Thor did his part and responded to Ross Scott with a lengthy tweet. Quote, I put out 2 videos disagreeing with your initiative 10 months ago and I haven't talked about it since. Now your initiative has failed and you're blaming me for 33 minutes of the hour-long video covering it. Your community is out in force, shitting up our streams and socials with hate messages, threats, and snide comments. I'm fine talking to people that are level-headed about this and can have a conversation, but to be real, dude, every time you've been involved, your orbiters turn shit toxic instantly and it sets me off. Your community is fucking rabid and it's shit to deal with for anyone on the other side of the argument. I still disagree with your movement for all the reasons I stated. That's unlikely to change at this point. I am more than fine with that. Stay frosty." Unquote. A day later, there was an uptick in signatures, but it was far from the desired growth. Thor on the 25th tweeted again, delivering a similar message. Ross Scott did not have much to add. He only contested Thor's point of him not taking his videos down in relation to Stop Killing Games. Thor refuted this by stating that Twitch auto-deletes VODs, and triples down on this by blaming the disappearance in YouTube VODs as an error on YouTube's side. Quote, that broken state causes them to be a black screen, and they cannot be recovered unless you reach out to YouTube for a 720p version, if they have it. Any video set to 1155 has deleted all content beyond it. Notice how many are missing due to this issue because I stream at a minimum of 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. Unquote. This is all very nice, but it is also a complete lie. As a reminder, Thor a year prior plainly stated that he took these videos down.
I just deleted all the VODs where we were talking about it. I kept my videos up and I walked away. They can eat shit.
A Twitter user even found this Discord message of Thor expressing this very thing. On the 25th, the signatures jumped by 30,000. Every day came with tens of thousands of new signatures. Then on July 1st, Jacksepticeye, the creator responsible for inspiring Thor to quit his job for Artbound, promoted the initiative and had this to say.
Someone like Pirate Software has gone out and done a horrible video on it, misrepresenting what it is, giving a ton of misinformation and actually kind of killing the initiative from the get-go, and then just being very egotistical about it, not saying sorry and really opening up to it and being like, shit, my bad, and then fixing any of the things that he said were wrong about it.
PewDiePie also jumped in and created a community post in support of the initiative. This and other large creators speaking on the initiative brought in hundreds of thousands of signatures, and around July 4th, the initiative passed. This was truly a day of celebration, but not for Thor, as viewers had shown their disdain for him.
Trying to say that our rescue is an animal horde. I've been called a pedophile, zoophile, rapist, corporate plant, degenerate, narcissist, nepo baby, and many other names. And they attacked all the accomplishments over my life, despite physical evidence to prove to the contrary. And they also went after every job I ever held, trying to say that I never worked them, or if I did work them, that I never deserved them. So I'm going to be honest with you. I hope that your initiative gets everything you asked for, but nothing you wanted. And I'll leave it there.
From here, Thor made the choice to step down from his position at Off-Brand Games.
Still part of Off-Brand? Nope. I stepped down. People were attacking the games that we worked on because they don't like me, and I don't want that to happen to any of them.
Also in early June, Thor spoke about his time at Blizzard, but not in the typical sense.
I think the biggest problem, man, is like, I'm 37 years old. I have had a whole career of doing stuff. And people go, that's impossible. I have never done anything. And it's like, then go do something. Like, do anything. Like, God, dude. What kind of dev work did you do at Blizzard? I didn't do any dev work at Blizzard. I've never said that I did. The internet has done some weird shit where they said, like, oh, he said he's a dev for 20 years at Blizzard. It's like, no, I was a dev when I was freelance. And then I was doing freelance work the whole time I was at Blizzard. And then I was also working at Blizzard because I was allowed to.
So now Thor was not a developer at Blizzard, a company praised for their game development. He was no longer the director of strategy of Off-Brand Games, he was hardly an indie game developer and certainly not a tech guru. The question then is, what is he? Though the answer can come in various forms, a proper label is lolcow, a creator that has long burned any goodwill with their audience and lives on to be milked for comedic moments. He was now being compared to the infamous Yandere dev. He was even getting the same treatment, with various creators breaking down the inefficiencies of his code.
I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this, but this is genuinely some of the worst code I've ever reviewed, and I didn't even explain or dive into every possible issue with it.
I recommend people actually download these VODs before he takes them down, because honestly, if I was claiming I'm a game developer with 20 years of experience, this would be embarrassing to have online. I don't even need to know how this game is designed to understand that whatever he's doing here is not optimal. I also don't need to recommend the most optimal data structure, because literally anything would be better than this. Another thing that's really, really weird is that he's using these numbers to represent people, and now everywhere he writes the number 1 and when it represents a person, he needs to remember that it's Shelly, which is presumably a game character. Imagine removing all these comments. Would you, as a newly added game developer to his game project, have any idea that 1 is Shelly? You would have no idea. This would never ever be allowed in a production repository, and like I've been hinting, it's below what you'd expect of a bottom tier intern.
Thor, now solidified as lolcow, was compared to Darkseid Phil. the quintessential lolcow. DSP responded to this comparison, expressing he did not even know who Thor was, an event showing that even in this space he was now struggling with exposure. But not for long. Coverage on Pirate Software had increased significantly. Creator Quinthio alone released several videos covering Thor. In July, he released a video that helped expose Thor for now possibly even faking his hype trains.
What? So this is him pulling it up on stream here, and I'll just go ahead and let the rest of it play, as you guys will see that this is indeed Pirate Software. You can see his messages between Kronos, the ones that we were just showing you.
These private messages that took place only months ago between Thor and his top mod exposed an agreement in which top mod, through a different account, injected thousands of bits to keep his hype train going. As per their agreement, Thor was apparently going to reimburse him. Quinthio goes into depth about the moral and legal implications of this. If Thor was doing this now, did he also use these tactics to break the hype train records even just for the sake of the achievement? Or perhaps to inject money right as the hype train was going to die as to extend it to encourage viewers to donate further? Whatever the case, it did not look good. Still, this was nothing new when put next to what Thor was now being accused of. On July 25th, Lyric Wolf, a former sexual partner of Thor who had his own grievances with him, and posted his full furry sexual erotic roleplay messages with Thor, was now coming out, stating that an anonymous Twitter user claims Thor SA'd them. Among this anonymous user describing the events of Thor pressing himself onto them and finishing, Lyric shares alleged screenshots between the victim and Thor. Thor at the time of writing has not responded to this, and these accusations have not gained much traction, likely because of the alleged victim's anonymity, which appears to make the testimony and screenshots of the alleged messages less credible. Additionally, 3 days after this broke, and only 1 day after Twitch announced they had made meaningful improvements to identify viewbots, Thor announced he was going to take a 1-week vacation that ended up being 2 weeks. In the midst of this, creator and animator Meat Canyon released a video satirizing Thor, and Thor himself placed all his former streams to private. When Thor returned, he began streaming a different MMO, old school RuneScape. Soon after, these servers were getting DDoSed. This was blamed on Thor, or rather his detractors attempting to disrupt his streams. RuneScape content creator A Friend attempted to reach out to Thor in his chat, likely for the sake of discussion, but instead was immediately banned.
Did he ban me?
Yeah.
Wait, said no way you banned a friend. Wait, what? I didn't even say anything.
And we'll let another flood through.
I said, the servers help, double XP weekend being ruined in RuneScape 3. Wait, I didn't even mean him even. Wait. What? No way it's a friend can get a bind. No way you just banned a friend. A friend got bonked. Isn't he a nice guy?
Thor and his moderators have become hyper-protective to the point that it is difficult for even friendly connections to be made. His streaming viewership has gone down significantly even just over the last few months. At his peak, he was getting 19,000 concurrent viewers. Now, he was around 3,000 and declining. His YouTube channel's performance was far more grim. Where he used to get 100 million views a month, he has slumped to 3 million and falling, losing hundreds of thousands of subscribers in the process. Thor's window for an apology has closed. His game sits at only 2% positive reviews for the last 30 days, and still, Thor is providing updates hinting at the completion of Animus. He has failed on his most recent promise to deliver monthly updates as he missed the one for June. Lastly is this clip. This one last clip that will tie everything together. It will explain the past and foreshadow the future.
Furion3456 with 500 bits said I've probably missed a lot in recent time, but I stopped watching because nothing seemed to be happening with Heartbound.
What?
Is that still ongoing or stalled? Kinda
No.
sad to not see any real dev streams, not just block game. That's what brought me here in the first place.
I haven't worked on Heartbound on stream in 3 years. That's not something I ever do, and I haven't for a very great deal of time. Outside of that, Heartbound gets updated every month on the first of the month. You should probably take a look at the Steam page.
Within these 3 years, Thor expressed countless times that he streamed his dev work to prove he was not scamming his supporters. He lied during this time with the gamble that no one would go through his streams and demonstrate he was not working on Heartbound. Now, he reframes it all in the window from 2022 to 2025 that no dev work had been done on stream. Additionally, Thor also claims he lost 2.5 years of dev work to COVID. This is from 2020 to mid-2022. This pieces together a 5-year timeline of little to no work on his games. What's more, his excuse is also built on a lie. He has provenly retconned his time sick, the reason he was sick, and even contradicted himself further by stating he was no longer ill and added more lies about Animus nearing completion during this time. Thor's lies are built on lies which are built on a mountain of lies. It's unknown if even Thor knows where the truth begins and lies end because he so frequently contradicts himself. And at the center of it all was Heartbound. A story meant to express Thor's trauma and development has not just taken pause, it has also been warped, yet paraded. Its illusion was lauded for its complexity because in reality, and when put simply, it, like Thor, is not what it thinks it is, and has failed and lied to everyone, including itself.